Welcome, folks, to a special episode of Fluffenbusters. I'm Mr. D, joined by Mr. White.
Hello.
And it's going to be a bit of an on because we're going to have a bit of a chat about. Yes, as we were talking, it's Friday the 23rd of May. Yesterday was Games Workshop's SKULLS event stream, hosted by the ever-reliable Raoul Kohli, where they revealed actually quite a lot of stuff of their video games, if not quite what everyone expected in some ways. And then we're also going to be watching the Horus Heresey stream at 7 p.m, so about 25 minutes time, and just seeing what happens there. We think we know what's going to be the big reveal, but you can never tell how long the actual stream GW is going to be for a single system stream. Could be the full hour, could be 10 minutes. So it'll be interesting.
I mean, anyone who's listening to this and is familiar with us will know about the power of waffle. So, for instance, we managed an entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, mostly waffling, with very little of actually getting to the point. So when it comes to these reveal shows, we feel really at home with the GW style of presentation.
That's fair, although I felt personally attacked by our colleague, the esteemed Decayed Andy, on the last Fluffenbusters.
Let's face it, though, we're normally personally attacked by him on the best of times.
I know, but I only caught it because I listened to the show on my drive yesterday. Bless him. He actively called me out after I'd left the Twitch stream chat to say that I was to blame for the deeper dives gone off on tangents, which he's not unfair, but you know, I'd have liked to be able to try and defend myself. But
I don't think of them as tangents. I think of them as exploring brave new areas.
That's a good way of looking at it. It's just my brain keeps making connections to random stuff, and I have too much shoved in all the corners of this.
Don't worry. I literally said to myself before we started this call, if we make it even a third of the way through the SKULLS breakdown before we get to the live stream, I'd be amazed.
All right.
Admittedly, though, a lot of this we can kind of go through quite quickly.
Oh yes, so let's get into it, shall we?
So first off, that's a small disclaimer here. As good or as bad as any of these things are, they are not marathon. Remember that, folks. There has been the low bar set for video games at the moment, and very low. So we started off with Raoul being excitable and eager and hoping to be in as many 40K live action movies as possible, and I'm sure he will be. I really hope he is. I think that would be great. Blurring the line as well between a fictional universe and then live streams for the official company. I think that's brilliant. But in terms of games, we started off with Warhammer Dark Heresy, so a brand new game from Owlcat Games.
That was a real surprise to me. On retrospect, it shouldn't have been, because Rogue Trader, although it was overshadowed by Baldur's Gate 3 on release, it did still sell quite solid numbers. It didn't review well everywhere, but the one thing that everyone praised it for was its getting the vibe. And it does that in spades. And Owlcat, as they want to do, they have continued to improve it over the months of its release. So it's coming on 2 years now. And it's in a pretty good spot. I mean, second DLC is due out soon. The second season of DLC will pick up in a few months' time. And they do keep making good quality of life improvements. And just, if anyone catches bugs, they've been trying to fix them as soon as they can. So, one, I'm glad that they're still supporting Rogue Trader. They're not cutting off support with Dark Heresy. But also, I'm glad to see that Dark Heresy's next on their docket, because, frankly, I think it's perfect.
A few people, I'm going to mention Varak, but also I think a lot of independent people as well on forums and in feedback have noted that a lot of developers have clearly seen the effect of Space Marine 2. They've seen how much this universe is blowing up, and if they have a license for anything, it's clear that they've realized they've got themselves a ticket on the money train, and it's up to them to make it work. And the way they make it work, and they've realized this, and this is so refreshing, is engagement, and they keep working on the game, keep providing more, show willing, show that you're down with the fans. And there were a lot of devs on this with the sort of hello fellow kids, hello fellow wargamers, hello fellow grimdarks,
Yeah.
But I did, when the lady from Alcat was talking about Dark Heresy, yeah, I kind of got it. I kind of felt that they knew where they were coming from. They were comfy. They liked this world, and it's nice for them to build on this. Plus, they are giving us some extra bits with Rogue Trader.
Absolutely.
Which consists of various extra bits. I have summarized this, folks. My apologies. I've kept it to the minimum. The important bits, I've gone extra bits and doggo.
Yes, that's yeah.
Okay, now following on from this, because I want to zip through this. Now, there's certain games here which naturally I'm not going to be as keen on. D, you might be the same, but if you are thrilled, for instance, by Talisman, which looks lovely.
Talisman, I mean, I've played the previous version of Talisman on the PC, and it's a fine game. It's Talisman, so as ever, it ends in anarchy.
Yeah,
which is what happened when we played it on the Fluff a couple of years ago. Great fun, but no one got anywhere near the end because it just went bonkers very quickly. I'm glad to see that this 5th edition of the game is still being supported in its digital version, which is nice. And it's Talisman. It's kind of it's one of those titles that's a bit. If you're not aware of it, you probably don't know about it. But for people who are, it kind of gives you a warm glow to know that it's still out there.
Yeah. That'll do.
Yeah.
That's not too bad. By the way, if anyone listening to this as well, if you have a particular love for anything that we mention, and even if we don't give it the praise that you feel it's worth, let us know, because it's nice to know. It's nice to know who, in terms of Fluff and Hammer people, which games they love, which games you love, which games rock your boat.
I was just going to say, and we're not asking this to cast judgment.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Because honestly, a lot of the games on this list they reviewed stuff for, there's a good chunk I've not really touched ever, to be fair.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it's not someone's cup of tea.
Absolutely.
So.
Right, next up, Sega Total War?
Yeah. Total War keeps on trucking.
Yep.
Total Warhammer.
Some of the developers, they're not actually announcing new stuff or new games. It's almost like they're just reminding you that, hey, we did this and this was the last thing that we put out and we're still going. There is an element of that, I think, to some of this.
A little bit. I mean, far as I'm aware, this DLC they announced is one I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
I know that Total Warhammer tends to have quite extended DLC anyway for each game in the system. I think they've been... Now, they were quite light on the details for this one, because I know the last DLC got a lot of flack for the price point and the lack of actual content to it.
Okay.
So I can kind of understand that, but it's nice to know that there's still stuff coming down the pipeline for it, and it's not dead. That's a very important thing. On the one hand, as a game that's complete means that eventually you'll be able to buy a complete version at hopefully a reduced price point, which is cool, and I'll be honest, I'd like to do that. Equally, it's nice to know that a game is still actively supported by the devs.
Yeah.
And they consider it something that's worth developing for. So
cool. Next up, we have the item that is going to provide Lutin with the backgrounds for his next 4 years of long play videos, and that is the Warhammer Games art book, which I think is bloody fantastic.
It is. I pre-ordered a copy, I think, before the cover was even revealed.
Oh, brilliant.
Ginger it up on Amazon. That and the character encyclopedia. To be fair, I think the art book's going to be of more use to more people than the encyclopedia, because it's all artwork from the games in their historical context, which people may not realize just how deep the Warhammer license's history is in video gaming.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's kind of cool to see.
Okay.
I'm still amazed that DK have clearly seen it's a fact that we're getting DK books with Warhammer branding. That boggles my mind.
Yep. It's honestly the growth of this IP and this company and this name. And I know that seems like a very corporate thing to say, but it's the corporate success of this company that's allowing books and collaborations like this to happen. But we go from art books to cards, a combat card game. Are you familiar with this one? There's going to be a couple of these on this list. So
I know combat cards of old because I had a couple of decks when it first came out back in the late 80s, early 90s, and it was the old top trumps just with GW branding and pictures of miniatures. And as with a lot of these card games, it's gone digital.
Yep.
And it's kind of fun that it exists in that space, and that they did a trailer to show off Angron. That's
it is. I mean, bless them. Good for them for doing it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these as well, they suffer because there's still a lot of similar types of games which are obviously they're live, and again, as I said, they know they've got the license still. They know there's money to be made. They're going to keep going.
Yeah.
However, I don't think any mobile game deserves as much credit as Tacticus for doing a little riff on the Space Marine 2 Last Stand raise the flag scene. And I swear they did it. I swear they did it based on that. But yeah, we're getting Custodes with them, which, Tacticus is one of those, apart from the fact that I can't say the name, it's one of those games that's gotten some good push to the likes of Lutin and certain other YouTubers. It seems to have a relatively good reception, and it's kind of nice to see, these kind of CGI trailers, they have a bit of character. It kind of makes you wish that maybe they do a short or something in the game
in that sort of style.
And hey, why not just have a word with GW and say, hey, can we just put something original, just like a 2-minute thing on your Warhammer Plus? And that way you kind of get almost like a sort of a trailer or an advert that stays on the official channel. But
I'm kind of getting images now of a 40k spin on Red versus Blue.
I'm thinking about Warhammer Lego.
Either or, frankly, I'd be down for. I mean, come on, you can having 2 fortresses at the end of a canyon, and instead of being Spartans, they're, I don't know, Marines and Guardsmen, or 2 platoons of Guardsmen. It writes itself.
Yeah.
Just for silliness that could transpire from that.
It'd be good. Next up, Good Old Games. So it's the Preservation guys. They've added Warhammer Chaos Gate, Final Liberation Warhammer Emic 40k, Warhammer 40k Rights of War, and Warhammer Shadow of the Horned Rat. Not
just they've actually had them on the roster for a while, but this is their entering their Good Old Games Preservation program, which is something they started up about a year and a half ago now, I think.
So that means that they are just now available. They will never be wiped. The information is. Is this like?
It's not just that they won't be wiped. It's that they'll always be playable.
Oh, wow.
Every game in the preservation program, GOG have made a commitment to making sure that they remain playable for however long they exist for.
That's fantastic.
Now, GOG's whole thing is that they make games work, but some games it's easy to do that for, and some games, the way they make them play are a bit more brute force than others. My understanding is the preservation program is to make them as easily accessible as possible for as long as possible.
I love that.
And yeah, it's great. In an era where so much content has disappeared from anyone's access, just because in some cases, just because people have forgotten where it was stored.
Yeah.
Irrespective of the more nefarious players who have actively removed content for a tax break, it's kind of refreshing to know. And GOG it's not purely, it's a business operation. It's run by the company that also operates CD Projekt Red. I think it's technically CD Projekt Red is the main company, and then GOG is underneath it.
Okay.
I've not looked too close, but I know it's the same broad umbrella. It's the same people involved, and they started GOG after their initial successes because they didn't see anyone out there making old games accessible on modern hardware. I mean, I have a huge library of stuff that I've bought again from GOG just because it's stuff I can't run anymore. I still have the CDs or the DVDs for them. They won't run.
No.
Not without major work. And a lot of the games you can buy from them, the older titles, are reasonably priced. You have all the extra content that was available for the game, all the physical content, so guides, maps, anything that was really in the releases. It's just there.
Brilliant.
And yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we've got Blood Bowl. It is what it is. Is Blood Bowl one of those? Is one of those games that has a small but quite loyal following? Would you say?
I'd say so. I mean, Blood Bowl 1 and 2 did well enough to get Blood Bowl 3 greenlit.
Yeah. 3
had issues out the gate. My understanding is that the team have taken feedback on board, and they have, as the game's progressed, they've been polishing it up. As they added more teams as well, they've just. I mean, I don't generally hear anything bad said about Blood Bowl 3 nowadays. Yeah. It's still got a bit of a bad rep from when it launched, but it's got a fairly deep roster of teams, and they keep adding to it. So, yeah.
Cool. Oh, it's all good. This is the thing as well. You know that there are going to be people out there really excited about it. But because obviously the nature of the fandom tends to be focused towards particular things at the moment, it means that maybe Blood Bowl won't get all the headlines. But if people are happy and its fans are happy, then that's all good by me.
Yeah.
Speaking though of stuff that is a little bit more visible, we have two things coming up. The first is Bolt Gun, the typing game.
Yeah.
I would love, by the way, the orc version of this, which would just be bang, 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 bang.
More hilarious.
Even if you have a melee weapon like an axe, even if you have an axe, it'll be daka, daka, daka. And also a very, very brief teaser for Bolt Gun 2.
Yes.
Which
kind of a no-brainer that Bolt Gun's going to return, just because it came out of nowhere and surprised everyone.
Also, they mentioned as well, I know Rahul's obviously he's going to big it up a little, but he said he was really pleased, and I think he used the word honored, to continue his character's story. And even in a game like this, which is, let's face it, very light on story, the idea that there is more story to be had, that's a good thing. And I'd say that's the thing with all of these as well. If there is a way to get a little bit of lore out of any of this stuff, then that's good by us. And you never know what way in which some of these games might develop. And speaking of weird ways that things develop, Mechanicus 2. Votan.
Yeah.
Love it. I think that's brilliant. And it's nice because they are so under supported. They're badly. I think they don't have the support that they need at the moment. You know, since they came back, it's taking a while for, I think, authors and maybe other elements of GW to really, apart from their initial push, to start sticking more stuff into the Votan. So even a small involvement in Mechanicus 2, it's got to be a good thing.
Absolutely. And Votan, we're just waiting for their codex so we can get the second wave, which should be a decent chunk of stuff, because they've got half an army as it is. They need more.
Yeah.
But to see them show up as the third faction in Mechanicus 2, that's going to be fun. Because it makes a lot of sense, because their place in the setting nowadays, and just their general vibe. I mean, I just want to see what happens when the Necrons run into them and suddenly find their tubes being mined out from underneath them.
Also, apart from the teaser, the original teaser, have we actually had audio and animation of the Votans since they've been announced? Or has it just been... Because I think this might be the first time that we see them just kind of running around and making noise. I know that sounds really dumb,
yes.
but... So this...
Not at all.
This could actually set the audio and visual tone for a lot of the Votan, at least out the gate.
I think you might be onto something there.
That's nuts. That is absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
So after that, we had Vermintide, which they releasing their final chapter of their current game, Well of Dreams, which is nice to see, a free release from Fat Shark. Obviously, Fat Shark very much enjoying fan love because of Vermintide and of course Darktide. But yeah, it's nice to see. I mean, I think Vermintide as well, like the animation, some of the stuff with the bigger rats as well. Just it looks beautiful.
It does. Vermintide 2 I came to quite late, but man, that game is fun. And the support Fat Shark have provided for it. I didn't expect them to be providing more story content, to be honest, at this point. And yet here we are.
Good fan support. Yeah, people like it. And yeah. I think they're right to keep going with it. And yeah, I think it can only get better from here.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to have a quick look as well and see if they're up and running yet.
They've got the starting soon screen up, so we've got a couple of minutes still.
Lovely. Okay, bear with me a second. Sorry, people. This is the joy of live reactions. Okay, next up we have Orc Racing.
Yeah, Speed Freaks, baby.
I have to admit, the accent kind of threw me on this because it wasn't like completely. It wasn't completely football hooligan. There was also a little bit of almost like a country accent to some of it, and I couldn't figure out what it was. But are they? I think this is one of the ones where they're not talking about new stuff. They're just saying, "Hey, we're here, and this is what we sort of added over time to give us a go."
Kind of. I mean, Speed Freaks has been out in early access since last year, since the last SKULLS, if I remember rightly, and it's now gone out of early access. It's now readily available. The big thing, though, is for everyone who's played it in early access has the full game,
right?
Which is kind of impressive, to be fair. And I double checked it. Yep, I have the full game in my library.
Oh wow!
Hasn't cost me a penny, but it's a game that is pretty daft fun in its own right. If they are able to stick with it and give it just a decent stream of hell, even just cosmetics, let you go full Mad Max and your vehicles would be great.
That'd be fantastic. So, we might sneak this one in just before the stream starts. Supremacy, a really good little trailer, some good humor. I had to admit, I kind of wish that these guys would do animations. I think they would do a really good job of doing little animations for Warhammer Plus. But after all the animations and the graphics, it kind of came off as a rather bland, like, mobile game.
Sadly, yes.
Should we it's all kicked off.
Yeah, let's take a brief respite whilst
now
the Heresy stream.
Whilst we do this, I'm going to make this just because we're on the stream at the moment. We will find a way to at least add in some of the audio or the visuals or something. I'll find a way to put some of the stream into this stream if this ends up on YouTube. If not, then we'll just cut to various points for reactions and so forth.
I have to say, I'm digging this history they're doing of Horus Heresy in publication. That's really cool.
Well, this is it. They've got this history. They need not exploit, but they need to mine it. They do, and if they do it with respect, and if they treat the artists with respect, do it. I know it's difficult at the moment for people to create stuff. Creators get a lot of hate, unfortunately, just because of the nature of online fandom. But go back to the beginning and people will shower this with love. Like, for instance, those books there. So we're seeing the Horus Heresy books. Print the artwork for those covers. Ask the artists.
Oh, they have.
But then
they
have interviews with the artists on how they made them or why they made them.
They have. They put a book out a year or two ago, The Art of Horus Heresy, and it's all of Neil Roberts' covers.
There we go then.
Including the one that he went back and redid for, I want to say, Galaxy in Flames, because he didn't do that cover, and it didn't quite match it up with the others.
Oh, so he purposefully went back. Well, he was allowed to go back and redo it.
They asked him if he'd like to go back and do it, and I think he said he actually did chat with the artist who did do the original piece because he didn't want to step on his toes, even though Neil had done everything else up to that point for Heresy. And since, to be fair, in terms of book covers, it's an astonishing number of covers he's done, but the man's a machine. Because he doesn't just do the Heresy covers, he's also quite prolific, and he does a lot of box art for the non-GW hobby industry in the UK, and also a lot of covers for Commando comic.
Wow. Sorry. We're talking over a really very good intro to this preview.
Yeah.
Credit to... Oh.
And it's Adam and Eddie back.
On a really bad green screen. What's going on there, lads? Come on, lads. I could do it better.
I mean, part of me wants to have Bricky there doing his news report from his last video about from Nostromo News, because that'd just make it even more funny.
Oh.
But it's nice to see the whole team back.
Also, most of the questions that are being asked of you are going to be mildly offensive in one way, shape, or another. God, I'm going to have to turn these guys down, sorry. There we go.
No worries.
It's weird. If, like, people at home, we want to hear this. That's why we might pause for seconds or go quiet for a while. If we wanted to talk all over them, we could do, but then we wouldn't have the context of what they're going on about. Also, they got some really strong eye light going in their eyes at the moment, so it's not surprising that they're struggling to look at the camera.
Yeah, it's making their foreheads shine. It's quite distracting.
Yes. By the way, Dee, where are you in the world?
Me, I am in my usual locale of North Wiltshire.
There you go. And I'm in London, about 150 meters from the XL, which has Comic-Con this weekend. So I'm literally surrounded by swords and weapons at the moment. Yay. There's probably a Space Marine within 400 meters of me right now.
I'd be surprised if it was just one, to be honest.
Yes. I'm actually going to go in there on Sunday as well and go around. So I might take some pictures. I'm going to go and see Mr. Andrew Griffith, Transformer artiste, who's going to be there.
Excellent. Groovy.
Do you think Adam should choose Iron Warriors, or if you think there's another Legion would be better suited for him, by all means, pipe up in the chat. I myself have got some white scars on the hobby table at the moment. I've never painted a white army before, so I'm quite looking forward.
Who are you painting at the moment, Dee? Because you're one of those people that does paint as opposed to me. I'm just shameful.
There's some pretty cool.
Well, I paint in theory. I build armies. I just don't get around to painting very much at the moment. But I've been building Space Wolves for my 40k forces.
Nice.
I've just finished kit bashing another 4 for Kill Team. So I wanted to have all the options for the Space Marines. So I now have a full spread of operatives to pick from. And I've just went on some parts to arrive to finish up some dreadnoughts.
Lovely.
For them. Yeah, I've got a Murder Fang just needs an arm finishing, and a Contemptor I've put into a very aggressive pose. I'm waiting for some parts to give him an axe, but I don't know if I'll have one of those available for a while.
I'm just wondering as well. It might be just reading into this, but they don't have any of the usual decor that they have around them. But behind Question Corner, they do have. Is that the Joy Toys stuff? When they ping back to him, it's interesting that they're sort of they've clear. I mean, they don't do anything without reason. So clearly Joy Toy's doing really well for them, but maybe an expanse of more stuff. Horus Heresy.
I'm amazed how much Joy Toy stuff gets revealed week on week, to be honest. Stunning. Oh, hello.
I
was there when he painted this.
Oh, it's Valdor.
An oddity among his schematics and
Genetia Kroll. Interesting.
Yet,
oh, that's beautiful animation.
a way he could express the enormity of his plan.
Oh, this is going to be dissected by folks for ages, isn't it?
Oh, that's more love than Sisters of Silence have had in years.
Not if the legions are successful. It depends on how deep.
I mean, I did enjoy seeing that sister who showed up in Tides. That was quite fun.
Yeah. Are we allowed to swear on this stream?
Go on.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. Yep, it's Istvan, baby. The drop site massacre.
Oh, this is just beautiful.
Man, this
is the guys who did the first Horus Heresy trailer, and it just low. If there were subtitles, it would be Adam low guttural orgasmic groan. Oh,
I mean, I fully intend to get one of these boxes just for kit bashing.
This is the studio that needs to do some sort of short.
Oh, and Malkador as well. Jesus. Oh, this is kind of big because we've never seen these two characters in animation before.
Yeah.
Nor given voices.
In the end, I suppose not.
And they're incredibly important.
Do you wonder if they might be right? Many will sympathize with their rebellion.
This is...
I am the Emperor's spear.
This has much greater implications than just a release for Horus Heresy.
It does, because that's a much bigger...
Ready for a war that may never end.
The nearest I can compare this to is the old Studio Blur trailers that they did for the Old Republic, Star Wars MMO. Because they were of a similar quality, but normally, until I think the last couple, had no dialogue.
Oh, are we talking about? Is that the one with the twins?
That was the brand new.
And also, I remember there was the Jedi Temple being attacked, and
yeah, started with the Jedi Temple. The first 3 led up to the launch of the game, and they did more over the course of its life. But actual dialogue was not common or didn't last for long. But man, that's good.
I'm sorry, you don't just make that and then stop at a trailer. That just feels like that was made. It's almost like Amazon making something and then going, let's just see if we can do this, and then we'll take the rest of it and go on. Like, you wouldn't make Malkador just to rock up and say a few things.
Yeah, this is. But yeah, so new edition of Horus Heresy. Not a surprise to anyone, because it's been out for a good few years now, and it's Saturnine, so. Effectively, the drop site masks during the drop site massacre, you get Saturnine Terminators and the Saturnine Dreadnought. The Dreadnought was unexpected because no one expected that.
No, not up until the person tried to sell it.
Oh, that's a big box. Ooh,
well done, lads. At least you're leaning into it.
I know.
Oh, please tell me there's a trainer inside there. Oh no, okay.
I love the measuring sticks. That's nice. That's classic templates. Lovely. And that is a box full to the brim of plastic. Good God. I mean, to be fair, the last Horus Heresy starter box was a bit of a bargain.
Right.
By any stretch.
Are we going to assume, by the way, not only that have they made a ton of these, but if there is even the vaguest chance that these sell out, which I don't think they will, but they will just go made to order, or they'll just pump out more.
Well, the last one, the Age of Darkness box, has been available right up to this
brilliant.
point.
Okay, cool.
You can still, and initially I think it did sell out for like the first couple of months, and they did do a made to order run, but since that initial spurt, it's just been available. It was a core game box, so unlike like Leviathan or Scaventide, which are very much launch boxes, which are supplanted by staggered introductory box sets that give you part of the contents, but not you don't get the full content you had in the final Ultimate Edition box sets. These ones are intended to be just available.
That's cool.
So now they may change out with this edition, so perhaps they because it's called Saturni, they might decide to do phased box sets, so possibly swap the rulebook out. I mean, they have in the past done box sets for 40k where they put a stripped down version of the rules in, so you can see how things go. But this looks to be the core set going forward. Ooh, disintegrators. Nice.
Oh, a lot of options there.
It's nice to have one nice thing about Heresy is having all these weird weapon types, and the disintegrator is a classic Rogue Trader era weapon, but they brought it back for the Imperial Space Marine release for the 35th anniversary. But it's nice to see it back as a core concept in the Heresy setting. And God, these look nice.
I know. Obviously, a lot is due to the quality of the paintwork, which is lovely. But I have to admit, I would love to see these in metal, a little bit bigger, and just almost as like weighty ornaments that are completely impractical for your home or bookshelf. But you would have them because they just look so oomph powerful. And credit as well for once, photography, really, really good job by GW here. Just nice. Salamanders look great.
They do. I mean, in fact, all of these paint jobs look pretty spot on. And the nice thing is that none of them are particularly hard paint jobs either.
No.
They all look attainable, and that's a very important thing that GW sometimes struggle with. And in fairness, sometimes their painters get flack for, because on occasion they paint stuff that looks too unobtainable for the average painter to do, which is great because it's selling the product, but on the other hand, you're making it hard for people to match what you've done. These, I can look at these, and in almost every case, I can, partly because I've been in the hobby a while, but I can see how they've done it. I can see in my mind how I would get the same sort of results from my own if I was doing it myself.
This is you just made me realize as well. Is this almost like a way of them doing not like a starter painter set, but like an entry level for painters, and making a set that they know they can do and that they don't have to feel so. I mean, I know they've got more technical stuff like this coming out that we're seeing on the screen, but that with the basic set out, it means that more people will actually be able to get on board with this because of the ease of the paint job. If you see what I mean.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, for Mark 6 armor they put in the last set, Mark 6 is generally fairly smooth in its design. The Mark 2, as one of the earlier ones, it's very gribbly.
Yeah.
But it's not gribbly in a way that makes it a quite nice. It looks like this will be a nice one just to prime, base coat, wash, dry brush. Job's good. That's a really nice way to get people. It's a nice one. You can improve from there.
Yeah.
But it lets your army build as well quite quickly. Put you off. Vehicle. That's a big turret. That's bigger than I thought it was going to be, to be honest.
It is. It's a chunky boy. Also as well, it's nice showing off the fact that they've really done well with the sprue management. It'll be a very small percentage of people that will pick up on this, but they're clearly aware that people want, they don't want half-empty sprues. So GW winning little favors in all areas with this. It does look nice though.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, one thing that's nice about this box is, and again, I'll go back to the Age of Darkness one as well. Same thing applies. Everything in that box was the retail release. Centurion got an extra sprue, but everything else was what you could buy. So we'll see all this stuff available individually after releases at some point.
By the way, very quick check. Are you Twitch or YouTube for this?
I'm watching it on Twitch.
Cool. I'll tell you why. There's a 2-second lag between the two. So
I've noticed that sometimes.
So that's fine, but it means that we can both focus on the same thing. Because otherwise, I was in danger of kind of picking up on things that you'd already said about. This Saturnine stuff is brilliant. The thing that intrigues me, and I don't know if they've done it yet. Oh, and they've got some lovely narration over the top. And I'm really sorry, sir, that we're talking over your narration. And we're seeing Vulcan. I'm really sorry, Vulcan, that we're chatting over you as well. I wonder if there'll be Saturnine Space Marines. I wonder if anyone will come out with that. Like any other forms of almost like, or even Imperial armor that's made in the same place. Has that, like the shoulders almost become the mark of the, not just the type, but something else.
Yeah, I mean the Saturnine was for Terminator armor before the other Terminator armors, effectively.
Yeah.
So honestly, the only thing that surprises me more about us getting this is that we haven't had a Heresy version of the Indomitor Terminator, what we see in the Terminators 40k, because that pattern exists in the Heresy. It comes in right at the end because it's for quick, easy to manufacture Terminator armor over all the other ones. So it's kind of fun to see that instead of doing that, they've gone right back to the beginning with the Saturnine. And what's fun is that there's been a few folks who've done their own versions of this over the years. Because I mean, I have at least one sculpt of a Space Wolf Saturnine Terminator I've never built from a company that did it as part of a Kickstarter for full squads.
In fairness, though, D, you probably have a version of every character ever made from some company or other.
Yeah, but I can't really argue that, can I?
How does it compare to this, though?
Honestly, I think these look a lot better than any other version I've seen. A lot of other Saturnines, they've tended to try and make them have the same mass as a regular Terminator. And the shoulder pads have been almost comically high in a lot of cases. These, because they've made the Saturnine suits larger, these are more like Centurion armor in their size. So these are big suits,
big, hefty, mobile, almost mobile platforms as well as units.
Yeah, these are literally walking tanks. I mean, these are almost the size of a 40k dreadnought, the classic Space Marine dreadnought, from what I can tell. So the fact that they've gone that way, it's given them more room to still fit in those shoulder pads.
Look at that! Sorry, look at that paint scheme.
Yeah.
Sorry, viewers. I now have to put some sort of visuals up, otherwise no one's gonna. Because all you're gonna hear is us going. Sorry. As you were saying, D, before I rudely interrupted.
No, I was just saying, because they've gone this approach, they've figured, well, these are the prototypes, so they'd be bigger.
Yep.
They'd be they'd have everything that we think of in Terminator armor is there. It's just less refined. It's chunkier. It feels more imposing. And I kind of dig it, to be honest. I mean, these could have looked very silly. I mean, even the artwork in the old Visions of Heresy from the card, taken from the card game, had a slight bit of tee-hees about it at times, unfortunately.
And yet they've made it
good.
work.
Yeah.
Somehow as well, it almost feels like they do have some ability. You'd think with those shoulders they'd just destroy everything, but the way they've sort of set them apart, and yeah, I think like this Praetors as well as using it for what it should be. It's almost like a banner. It's not just a shoulder pad. It's like a banner. It's like everything, and it's almost, you can see the suit is underneath. This is just kind of an extra bit on top, and I would love to see, by the way, like a take on an old Survivor version of this, where maybe it's missing the shoulder pads, but has a little bit of it left.
I mean, now they've introduced the Saturnine armor, I would not be surprised if we see something from their character series in resin at some point down the line. Because it's almost an inevitability at this point. Once they've introduced a suit of armor, they will put a named character in it at some point.
There might even be a sneak at the end of this. I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe, yeah. I'm loving the options that they've shown off of this.
Lots and lots as well. Lots of weapon mounts, weapon styles, pose styles. Posing's brilliant. Paint job's amazing. Really, really good. They really are, though. I was joking, but they want sprue feedback. Look at this. It's clearly the sprue designer for this was like, look, I'm getting the most out of your plastic, okay?
I mean, to put it in context, the sprue that they've used for the Saturnine Praetor, so one small sprue and a single big one, that's effectively the same sprue size in total as Gilliman, as Bobby G got. That's a big sprue for a big mini with a lot of options. And then we have the Saturnine Dreadnought, and oh lordy, I might have a proxy come to use now for a Ballistus Dreadnought in my Space Wolves.
Oh, nice.
Instead of buying the Ballistus Dreadnought.
I tell you what, actually, I cannot wait to see. Like, obviously, people are going to push for this in 40k. They will, and naturally, I give it like a day before someone tries their 40k version of one of these. But could you imagine just how bedecked with pelts and runes a surviving 40k Space Wolf Dreadnought of this type would be? Just literally laden down with stuff. It'd be beautiful. It'd be equivalent to Odin's style.
There's a lot of fun to have.
Also, as well, as many guns as you possibly want.
I do want to see how, because previously the biggest dreadnoughts were the Leviathan and the various Primaris dreads. I'm not sure if this one's bigger than those or not.
Maybe because of its like the time as well. They're going for the large size to almost, because oh my, that's a huge beast.
So that is all the miniatures from the Saturnine box set.
And that's a lot of content in that box.
Have they announced the price for it yet, or is that something that we're going to get here, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, the last one was, I think, retailed at, it was either 100 or 200 was the RRP for it. But even with that price, the discount on what you were getting in the box. Now, this one doesn't have the Spartan tank that you had in that box. So there is a difference there in the point. But you've got a dreadnought that's much bigger than the Contempt you got in the first one. The turret is not a small kit. The two Praetors are both pretty decent size.
Cool.
6 Terminators and 40 Mark II Space Marines with special weapons which weren't in the previous box. That is a decent jumping off
Yeah.
point. I mean, you can build an arm. In fairness, a lot of people who have seen this probably already have a Heresy army or has got a Heresy box set somewhere, so they may have started.
Yep.
This is a great expansion to an existing force.
Mm.
It's also a great way to start a new force.
Yeah.
Or, because honestly, I've not really heard of anyone splitting these boxes like they're intended to be. Because it's just too good a value for money. Just make it one army instead of two distinct forces. But yeah, this is awfully tasty.
Well, they just also mentioned as well, and I do apologize. I'm mixing audio here on the job, but they just confirmed as well that there's no Legion specific iconography on any of these, so you can use it for anything.
Yeah.
And of course, that has the benefit of again making the models a little bit cleaner, a little bit easier. So if you want to go to town on these, and you know people are going to go, but for brand new people new to the hobby. A basic paint scheme, just slap them in one color, stick a little bit of null on, and you're good to go. Heck, I even might try one of these. Though, that's
and Heresy is great for that because the color schemes can be real simple, or you can get real elaborate depending on. Because the Heresy is much more of a historical type of setting. A lot of people I see playing it and talking about it, they treat it like a historical game, like Bolt Action or something.
Ooh.
So they're specifically. Oh.
Sorry, so people obviously wondering about scale here. Because as well, people have been asking that, and then they've obviously Chaos, Spider Tanks, how it compares. So are people going to be ripping theirs off and putting them on knights?
Considerably larger than the tarantulas.
I could see people doing that.
Then again, people are going to be taking every single part of this and probably ripping it and putting it on every single other thing. There he is.
Oh yeah, I mean, part of me would love to take this and build a Heresy or a Hydra flak tank.
Ooh.
In terms of how they compare to some of the other things, we also
that's a big Terminator. I mean, that's
wow.
It's at least a 50mm base. Yeah.
If I could like MS Paint a Photoshop a little speech bubble in there, for once it would just say "Daddy." It would just when you grow up, son, your shoulders can be as big as these.
I have to say, one of the things that would be nice is to see the Tartarus and Cataphractite Terminators get a redo because they are quite small now.
Oh! Look at this. Oh, that's not too bad actually.
Crumbs.
Then again, as well, he has rock. It's a traitorous rock.
I mean, that's just crying out to be turned into a chapter master for someone.
Yeah. Actually, it would do wonders at Black Templar.
Ooh,
oh wow!
Bloody hell!
Vulcan
is not a small mini. He's physically the.
And he's on a little higher platform. Both of his feet are so.
A little
they
bit,
could almost have a conversation head to head. They're not far off.
That's very
Vulcan
funny.
would actually ask him to sort of drop down because he couldn't see past his shoulders if they're in a meeting. Oh.
Certainly his presence on the battlefield almost as imposing as a Primarch, which is pretty cool.
Well,
Lordy. I did notice when they pulled the Saturnine out, it was noticeably taller than the Leviathan dreadnoughts in front of it. That's.
There he is with one of his finest creations, the Saturnine dreadnought. There we go. So you can see even a Primarch standing next to one of these things is dwarfed by the size of the Saturnine dreadnought.
Now that's just me. They're showing off a new plastic dreadnought alongside the resin dreadnought everyone's wanted in plastic for years.
Oh, someone's going to do a Custodes version as well.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be like it's going to be like the Bank of England gold vault. It's going to be that beautifully, brilliantly gold.
Good God.
I mean, good on them. They're answering all the questions with scale. They're getting all the good models out. And the thing is, as well, they probably had standard models to show, but these two are so proud of their creations. They were like, no, we want our own painted models, please.
That's massive. The thing, the Leviathan is pretty much the same size as the Redemptor Dreadnought chassis. It's not small. That's about the same size as the smallest Imperial Knight, the Armigers. This thing, it's hench as hell, and I love it. I don't think anyone really was asking for a bigger Dreadnought, but bless them, they gave it to us.
I tell you, imagine as well fear and awe in a Space Marine. So in the lore, if they find one of these and it's somehow still alive, and they stand up and it's just they dwarf over these poor Marines. By the way, this animation is just going to be watched again and again and again, isn't it? It's going to do like reactors on YouTube. I mean, we should completely as well, like shamefacedly do a reaction to this. We need, our little bloody pop-ups in the pop toys in the background and our Marvel Avengers movie poster and stuff like that. Finally, backed by demand, reaction to Horus Heresy trailer. And then we can, just get ridiculously excited and pretend we've never seen it before. And the saddest thing is it will probably get more views than anything we ever do anywhere else combined.
I'd like to refute that, but I can't because I watch a lot of reaction stuff.
Here's the thing as well. If you think I'm taking the piss, no, I'm not. Because you know what? This is what GW needs. It needs people to see this stuff. It needs people to react to this stuff. It needs people to go nuts at the trailer and just get that little step into discovering the fandom, because they're going to be interested. This more than anything else, because this is basically just like normal people versus normal people with a little bit of twist to the bad guys, but not massive, not like full on subsumed by chaos. So yeah. Good for them. Well done to the animators as well.
Absolutely.
Hello.
See, this is something I've liked in their boxes recently, where how they've been putting the printed content
in a
little.
Brilliant.
It's a little touch, but you know
it's
what?
Nice.
It goes a long way.
It just makes it feel a little bit special. It's like that first time you open the book as well. Look, you see, even he didn't open it straight away and crease the back. He opened it with reverence. Look, he's still not. Oh, look at the artwork. You can just see it's going to be so good.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I mean.
Oh man, that's. Yeah, that's a lot.
See, the thing is, I know if Andy were to listen to this, he would be going, but Adam, you don't paint any of your stuff. You've got, you've bought boxes and you just don't paint them. What's the point of you even owning this? You don't even play the game. And I'm like, yes, but there's part of me that wants this.
I mean, part of me wants to go like Benny from him and say, I might do.
I might do one day. I wonder if they would do a separate Malkador figure.
Mini?
Yeah, mini for this. That'd be nice.
I'm trying because I'm not entirely sure on this, but I think they did. I don't think did they stab the Emperor in first edition Heresy. I know there's been a couple of folks who've done miniatures of the Emperor. Of different degrees of quality but mainly based on what design they were using for him. Malkador is interesting because I don't see the Emperor you could work with, because you could say you were playing a game set during the Crusade before he retired to Terra. Malkador's a tricky one because he's not what you consider a battlefield character.
No, would they ever do one just as a
character
as
piece?
a character piece?
That's a possibility. I mean, they're doing Latara Sarin, and she's not really a character who should ever be on the front lines of any battlefield, because one, she's a naval officer, and two, she's human, even if she is Angron's favourite human. But I mean, it would be nice to see them do a character figure of Malkador, because it's the sort of thing that wouldn't need stats.
Yep.
Oh, actually, I could see them doing a character. Because they've done it before, where they've done two characters together. I could see them doing a character piece, a diorama of Malkador and the Emperor. That could be quite fun.
By the way, I'm glad that we've not adopted the tone of some of the chat in the official Warhammer stream. Not that they don't make good points, but a lot of people, one of them, I think they're talking about the fact that they're the heavier stats versus what 40k has, and it's a little bit more stat heavy. And somebody just replied to a comment and went, "Wake up, Grandad! Intelligence is back."
I have to say, it is nice to see leadership, cool, willpower, intelligence as a stat block. That warms these.
Is that sorry? Can I ask as well? Couples. And again, sorry, non-gamer here in terms of the tabletop, but is that Necromunda as well that has this sort of level?
I can't remember if they exist in Necromunda, but those are the mental characteristics that existed in Warhammer Fantasy Battle 1st, 2nd, and 3rd editions, and Rogue Trader 40k. Cool. We haven't seen them since the start of 2nd Ed and 4th edition Fantasy Battle, because they stripped them back to make the game smoother. Nice. But it makes sense to bring them back. One of the things about Heresy, for part of the reason it gets so much content, and my apologies, folks, if I'm a bit mumbly.
No.
I managed to slice my tongue open yesterday on a 4DX screen of Mission Impossible. So, fun times.
We could spend an hour now talking about you and your relationship to your tongue. The Emperor's children probably have a better relationship to their tongues than you do, sir.
True. But one of the things about Horus Heresy that is one of its strengths is because it is effectively mirrored forces. Yes, you have the Solar Auxilia and the two Mechanicum forces, and you can get a little bit of randomness thrown in if you add in the militia rules. But for the most part, it's Space Marines versus Space Marines. Exactly the same base stat line. And that's meant that it's actually incredibly easy to balance it. And the fact that they've stuck with using the old 3rd edition rule set, well, was the 7th edition rule set as the basis for it.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting to see them playing around with things in this edition. So I hope it's not going to be a case of rules being dumped out completely because I know people have. I mean, in fairness, Heresy's actually been quite forgiving in terms of what books you need to buy.
It has been, but I think this will require at least a refresh of certain things, and
that's a good point. I mean, if that's all it needs, that'd kind of be fine. I'd worry if they decided this was a point where they start doing a book for each legion, say. That could be a point where folks go, I'm not too sure about this.
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, they could be trying to keep it still fairly lean and treat this as a case of a refinement. So they're bringing a lot of the rules they introduced after the launch of 2nd edition Heresy. So consolidating things back into the core rule book is not a bad thing, in fairness. But we shall see.
Yeah, it's again, a lot of people, they're going to be interested in the way the stats are used. I imagine the complexity of it versus the 40k game, but that is great for that type of person. And also as well, a lot of people, let's face it, a lot of people looking at these models are not going to play the game. You know, a lot of them are looking at them
Also
as
fair.
painters, and that's such a huge chunk of I think Warhammer fans now. It's getting crazy.
That's very true.
Also, I was going to ask, sorry if I banged the mic there, but yeah, the Auxilia. I'm wondering if other factions as well after this, other factions are going to get either little cameos or additions or upgrades or I don't know. Is this like it's because obviously Horus Heresy is such a rich time point.
I
And
mean,
there are things
Solar
around at that point.
I mean, the Solar Auxilia still have units that have not translated over into plastic yet from the resin range. So the new legal books. Those actually look quite tasty. So their Ogren unit hasn't been done in plastic yet, so I could see those coming across. There's still a few tank variants I think haven't been seen. The Admech and the Dark Mechanicus, or the Dark Mechanicum, that's a tough one. I mean, they actually, to be fair,
there you go, Auxilia.
There's a lot of
Well, there we go. Good grief! I asked a relevant question. I can't believe I did that. Sorry, I won't do that again.
That actually looks really
nice.
That
does, doesn't it?
So
I'm sorry. I'm genuinely stunned. I got something right. I make no bones about the fact I'm pretty crappy when it comes to this sort of thing, but I'm quite chuffed now. And also, yeah, it just I like again. It's such a rich world that you have with Horus Heresy. I know it's tied to certain events and certain planets and certain time scales, but there's just GW through its own lore have such a rich culture of different races and elements of that time. It's just within the Imperium itself that there is room for it to grow, and I think they're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what I would say is we covered all the models.
Gruffy? Oh, damn.
We'd like to talk a little bit about the lore. Perhaps you've been sat there in the chat and you're like, what is this Horus Heresy?
How do I the important bit, the books.
Please tell me you're compiling all of the Horus Heresy into one volume.
So, you've heard of the Horus Heresy. It's the foundation myth of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, an epic saga of events so cataclysmic they shook the galaxy to its very core. With more than 35 years of real
I'm trying to imagine how that would work. Taking all the Heresy writings and put into one volume.
Good news is, it's actually pretty straightforward. And to prove it, here are 3 surefire ways to get started.
I mean, I can imagine that being the reason for the start of the technological revolt. For the AI revolt.
This honking great tome isn't just a rulebook, though. It's also a fantastic primer for the events of the Horus Heresy. It's loaded with artwork and lore.
So it's a nice lore book. That's good.
And even has detailed timelines of key events. But what if you really want the story? You know, all those novels everyone keeps banging on about. Well,
I mean, one thing the Heresy books have always done well is giving you lots of good lore and artwork.
Want a brief, spoiler-free summary? By the order of the Emperor, Horus has been acclaimed the War Master. Everyone loves Horus. It's all going to go great.
Sorry, folks. This is where we just pause for a minute because we want to see what the implications of this lore is.
I mean, one of the nice things is that there's lots of gaps you can work with in the Heresy. Although the amount of work they put into basically mapping out things people never expected.
Yeah, so sorry as well for folks who haven't listened in or we've been talking over the top. They said the way to learn about the Horus Heresy is to read the books or listen to the books, and that's it. So, so I was like, yeah, well, we know that, but Luton is safe with his Lawmaster title, I think, for at least another couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, there will be a few people who may be watching this for the first time and have never really seen the Heresy books, but it's still quite funny.
Just pick up the first book; it's fine, and it's like some 300-page book.
Ooh, maps, always nice to have a good map.
Post Great Crusade, you can see some of the more troubles and things that are taking place in the galaxy have begun.
I have to say, I've been on a bit of a kick with the Heresy. I've been listening to particular strands a bit because my Audible collection is a bit weird. I haven't bought all of it on Audible. I've just picked up books as they become available or in sales. But I had all the Unremembered Empire stuff.
Okay.
So Guilliman, the Lion, Sanguinius, and all their stuff. And that's a fantastic arc to listen to be fair.
I might give it a go. I have to admit, I started working, as you know, I'm doing something a little bit unique in terms of day-to-day stuff. And I have taken my Kane book with me, and I'm managing to get time to read about 2 or 3 pages a day. And so it's very, very slow to get through, but it's lovely to work through it. And it's nice as well, considering the environment I'm in. But it's a great way to pick up stuff. But in terms of actually learning about Warhammer, my first book was Flight of the Eisenstein. And I still think that is probably one of the best. And yes, I know I'm biased, but I think it's one of the best ways to introduce yourself to the 40k universe, because it starts with the viewpoint of a soldier that is completely sure that everything is normal, and then everything goes wrong. And it just introduces the concept of chaos really well.
Yeah, Flight is a genuinely cracking book. And I mean, for me, it was fun just because I'd known about the Eisenstein for nearly 2 decades when that book first came out. Because it's been a part of the lore that Garrow was the ship that brought news of the rebellion to the Imperium at large. It was one of like the fundamental lines, and listening to those first few books, it was the build-up I was waiting for. And every time I heard mention of Garrow, or when they finally mentioned the Eisenstein, it was like, oh, yay, huzzah! Oh, they're doing the Space Marine Super Heavies in plastic. God dang.
Now, is that an ad break for us, do you think? Do we now go on and try and sell you the plastic tanks, almost like a used car salesman? Even though those tanks, the whole deal of them as well is that we see these things probably shiny new. You know, these have yet to be destroyed. Oh, it did look good though. Again, it's testament to the quality of the paint as well that these models look so big.
I mean, I'm genuinely surprised it took them this far to get us to the point of having these tanks in plastic. Because we've had the plastic Baneblade chassis for, God, nearly 2 decades at this point.
Until he moved that turret and the model moved, I thought it was just solid metal. It looks really nice.
Yeah, that for one thing, the Heresy does bring out in some folks is it's always encouraged folks to get the airbrush and go to town and get some real nice effects going.
There are people going, so how many of these does it take to field an entire army? you just know it. Kirioth probably.
Oh yeah, Kiri's probably losing his goddamn mind about now. Bless him. Can't blame him though, because
it's such a chunky beast.
I mean, you can now have pretty much every scale of Space Marine tank in plastic. And it's so funny that the Predator for the longest time was what was deemed the battle tank of the Space Marines. And we've had like now the introduced for Super Heavies pretty early on in the Heresy game, back in the first edition of it.
the sort of similar silhouette.
But since then, we've had 2 further tanks that sit between the Predator and this, and one was actually smaller than the Predator. And they all kind of look great. So you could actually have a... Theoretically, you could build an all-plastic Space Marine armored force that's pretty coherent across its designs.
It just looks so slick.
Mm,
There's
it does.
yeah, I know it's the tank. I know it's a tank. I'm not denying it isn't, but there's just a little element of sports car in there.
Well, it's the way they've taken element, because it would have been so easy to do what, because the resins had a bit more of the DNA of the Imperial Guard Super Heavies in them. This is given a lot more of the DNA of the Space Marine Super Heavies. So you have that same layered armor that you get in, that's characteristic of the Land Raider chassis in 40k, and you see it in all the 40k Space Marine tanks effectively. And you're right, that angled slant that's on the tracks, that makes no sense from a tactical perspective because those track links are open to being shot to shreds. Doesn't it look cool though? That looks tasty as hell. God, that does look good though.
Right, Alex.
There are indeed. There's a lot of people asking very specific questions.
Are they all nice questions? I just keep looking at the shelf behind him.
Yeah, those Joy Toys of the Primarchs are very nice.
Yes, I think the rule changes is going to be quite a big thing because if people feel that they have to buy new stuff just to keep up with the game, that'll be a challenge.
That's a fair argument. I mean, second edition Heresy was very much a consolidating exercise. So it was carrying on what began with the first edition, but made it much more accessible. Because by that point, by the time Age of Darkness launched, you actually couldn't buy a lot of the classic black books that they released for Heresy because it was a different market. It was marketed through Forge World. They were very premium products because they were all leather bound and gorgeous looking. You had the red books instead, but they were much more stripped down. They were really more just the stats. So second edition was an exercise in bringing this to a much bigger audience, making it more readily available. This I see as a refining exercise. So they've looked at it and they're trying to see what can be done. And the thing is, they're in a no-win situation. Because if it had just been a reprint with a new edition that was just tweaks here and there, little tweaks, people would have been a bit up in arms. This is much more of a... feels like they've really taken some thought to things.
It's teaser time.
Oh. Was this for the Kill Lupercal animation?
I believe it is.
I think it might be. This does look quite good as well, doesn't it? It is reminding me that I have a Titan Battle Group box for Legions Imperialis to build at some point.
Sorry, this princess reminds me of an aunt I used to have. Formidable woman. Oh. Ooh. Ooh, I don't know. Some of this might be in progress animation.
Wouldn't surprise me.
awesome. She might have the best job in
Gosh.
Imperium.
It's up there, isn't it?
Really
Titan
good.
Princeps.
Eddie, what can you tell us about Kill Lupercal?
Yeah, so that was Kill Lupercal.
Oh, fantastic. So it,
Horus Heresy animation
brilliant.
on its way for Warhammer TV for Warhammer Plus subscribers, and that will be available to watch next week, the first episode.
Nice. Yeah, and the plot is set
Ooh.
Terra on Terra itself.
That's right. Yeah. So in the closing hours of the greatest battle in human history.
Ah, so we might get more of our guys in the palace,
Ooh,
which makes sense actually. Yeah.
Perfect. Right. We promised you that there would be a few
Very interesting.
that we would close out the show with, and so what we've got is a little bit of a preview of things.
I've just realised how long this stream's gone on for, and I honestly didn't expect it to be a full hour.
These things are a few months out
Wow.
after the other side of Saturnine. So we'll show you on the proviso that you don't harass the social media team too hard.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the deal, right? So we'll show you the stuff a little bit earlier than we might normally, but you're not allowed to pester the social media team every
More
day when
previews.
they come out.
Lovely.
That's the deal. And if you're not okay with that deal, you can start watching.
I'm sure. Yes, that your quick words going to hold sway over the Warhammer fan.
Bless their cotton socks, their optimism.
That's quite nice.
Thought so. Alternate weapon. Oh wait, is that No, that's tarantulas.
Those wires are not correctly earthed. I'll be having words with their supervisor. It does look like it's wires out of a plug.
I was going to say, do you really think anyone in the Imperium of Man is really up to spec on their OSHA violations? All right, I'm kind of digging back. It's classic. Oh, rapiers as well. Lovely. So these really do warm a special place in my soul, because these were part of the system when I first got into the hobby.
And you're calling these rapiers, even though they're just baby tanks?
Yeah, because they're self-propelled weapon platforms.
They are the cutest thing. They need some bunny ears or cat ears or something. We're on to the Varak section of the live stream. Oh, I'm sorry. That almost looks like an 80s synth band. It does. You just need someone with a guitar, and that would be it.
I mean, I fully expect someone to extend one of those keyboards into the classic FUD gun. And it's part of the rapier, even better. And they are doing the laser destroyer variant. Lovely. See, I'm spouting words, and Adam's probably going, "What are you talking about?" Because here's the thing. All of this is more assault marines in plastic. Yay. Oh, and plastic chain axes. Yes, please. I have a mighty need for my space wolves.
I mean, he is 3/4 of a jet. It's just he happens to be standing. It's like Jetfire if he said, "Sod the transformation. I'm just going to keep being normal walking around."
Yeah, people knock most of the Spacian jump packs without realizing that, honestly, it's for Mark IIs, for the unsubtle ones. Every other Spacian jump pack is incredibly aerodynamic by comparison.
God, that's beautiful.
The Mark II is just 2 turbines strapped to the backpack, and it's brilliant.
It's, can we see the back?
Oh, and plastic breeches as well. That's been requested for a while.
People are happy. People are happy in the official chat. All the work they've done with tanks and designs and animations, and a guy with a gun and a shield and a hole in the shield, and that's done it all. I love the old Star magazine as well, the secular magazines. They're just
I'm kind of I'm looking at that bolter, and I'm actually seeing a fair bit of the original, well, second, well, the late Rogue Trader, early second edition bolter designing that, especially at the rear.
Probably.
That's really interesting.
It's mostly Space Marines. Oh, we did that before. Here we go. This is a Space Marine still.
Yeah, there's more Space Marines on the way.
That's
We're
real
going to show,
interesting.
a little bit of this guy is a Volkite gun. Obviously, bolters and.
Honestly, I could dissect some of these reveals for
there will
hours.
be a lot. I mean, the guys are going to do their show on this as well, so they'll be talking about.
Oh, yeah,
this
they'll be narrowing
donkeys.
about it. Absolutely, rightly so, because.
Oh.
Now, as I said, it's not just Space Marines in the Horus Heresy, even though it's mostly Space Marines. Here's a look at something that's coming from the Forge world, maybe Mars.
There you go. So, yes, this is a Mechanicum.
Oh, hello.
Not going to show you the whole model, but just in case.
I like the sort of hoof heel thing.
Absolutely, a little tease of something yet to come. And speaking of
Oh, I might have to get some of those for my Burgundy and mech at some point, whatever they are.
A beautiful Guardian spear for an a Legio, I beg your pardon.
Now,
model.
I think that looks more than a little bit like the blade of a certain Captain General of the Adeptus Custodes power spear. Because his is distinctly different to all the others. Which means he might be coming in plastic.
Well, again, if a character's being seen on screen.
Well, the thing is, Valdor has a resin kit. He's been available for quite some time now.
What a great way to put him into plastic, especially if someone like Valdor might be showing up in a movie at some point.
Absolutely.
Oh.
And the thing is, the plastic heresy characters, they've done the named ones. Because they did Fafnir Ran and Dominion Zephon, Imperial Fist and Blood Angel respectively. They're both really good kits. They're real good. But it'd be nice to see more named characters in plastic.
Oh, they're actually a bit smooth. They've got the US show going at the moment. So once this finishes, they're going to pass back to the US so people can still stick with the stream over there, which is great. Tell you what, in terms of live streams, they've done really well with this one.
They really have. I mean, it's nice to see Adam and Eddie back because they were always kind of like the dream team for doing these shows. This felt a lot less.
It feels like they've been shunted to one side.
I don't want to say overly produced, but that does tend to be how a lot of them for ones over the last 2 years.
Yeah, it feels like Hello Kids a bit.
Yeah, and I do understand it because it's easier from a production side of things to have canned stuff that they can roll out like that. Having the team live is a wholly different kettle of fish. You need to have someone in the chat to moderate things. You need to have someone monitoring it, as Alex has been, and you need two guys like these two who can banter like they do really well, and just discuss things and share. The thing is, yes, they work for Games Workshop, but these two are really enthusiastic hobbyists.
Yeah, and it kind of shows through as well. We again, everyone's going to watch this cinematic a hell of a lot. There's stuff in this as well that we've not picked up on, but there's also as well. It's just a lovely look at Terra. Terra, and the state is like this was, especially for the home world. This was like the very last moments of it being almost the dream.
It's one of the glorious things about what the Heresy books have done so well is get across how the Emperor almost succeeded with his plan.
Yeah, it was so close.
Now, his plan was monstrous, make no mistake. However you cut it, the plan he enacted was terrifying to consider. But from a coldly dispassionate perspective, it was also what he believed it was the right one and what needed to be done. And it all fell apart.
Yep.
And the Heresy books show you very clearly for people who genuinely believed in what they were doing
on both sides
and fought it yeah. I mean, it's kind of. I've come to this realization of the last few months that honestly, as you read the Heresy, it becomes very clear. Most of the issues are because the Emperor had no patience.
Yeah.
He was rushing. If he'd had a little more patience to try and explain things or run through things, but he felt he couldn't. He felt he didn't have time to. That he was up against the gun.
And yet we're still trying to figure out. Even people nowadays is trying to figure out, like Luton, trying to figure out why he was rushing, why it was so bad. It's one of those mysteries, and you just think, yeah, he surely would have known, with a person of his intelligence and his ability to see the bigger picture, he'd realized the risk he was taking. And if even his not servants, but those lower down the list, like these two gentlemen, who, Malcador, let's face it, he's only a small step below the Emperor, and he must have known. He must have known, but they stuck to the plan that they had to do. And you hear a lot of it as well. There's kind of what I'd call almost whispered regret. Malcador knows that there could have been another way, but for whatever reason, it wasn't available.
Yeah. It again, it's one of the glorious tragedies of the Heresy that's how it plays out. That it falls apart, and certain people can see exactly when and how it fell, and there was nothing they could do to stop it.
By the way,
because things
that video ends on a sea of beaks, of beaky helmets. There are people who are going to take that final shot and use it for all sorts of personal use. You know who you are, beaky
absolutely.
fans.
Yeah, good reveal.
Do you think? I mean, we're going to actually jump back as well because we've got some other Skull stuff to cover. But I think there was a huge fear with this as well, that because GW have been known for lots of reveal shows that don't quite match up to the hype, and there wasn't too much that we hadn't already seen, at least in one way, shape, or form. And yet this they really seemed to knock it out of the park, and it was an hour, whereas like Skulls was 45 minutes, and didn't really for most of that it felt like a bit of a waste. But this was good, really nice.
It's not even the fact it was an hour; it's the fact that they've done reveals like this for a big box set, and it's been half or even a quarter of the time. So this was. I dug it. I dug it a lot. I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah, it feels like they gave the box its due, and I think the box will really sing on the. I mean, sales wise, this is going to do fantastic. But I think sorry, jumping aside, going to a very odd tangent, because I don't think anyone will pick this up. Like nobody will pick this up. But for anyone interested, GW's share price over the last 2 weeks, I think it went up by about 10%. Like as of Wednesday, it hit an all-time high. I believe Tuesday night it hit all-time high. Wednesday it just went up again. Like it went up significantly.
That's not a small amount.
No, it's not, because I think about 4 weeks ago I noted that they passed 5 billion in terms of the actual company worth in terms of shares. And as of, I believe it was Wednesday night when it did hit its peak. I don't know what it's done today, but it was like 5.3. And that's literally in a couple of weeks. 300 million, nothing to be sniffed at. Now, the way that you might be at home as well, you might be going, well, why the hell is he talking about share price? What do you care about share price? Well, the fact is that the industry, even bankers, would you believe, because those who are in the know are so in the know, they pre-price everything. So, for instance, if say today Henry Cavill went, "Hey folks, I got a trailer for the new movie," it's not like the share price would go up massively, because those in the know will have already priced it in, and the share price would have gone up 20% in the last 2 weeks. No one would have known why, apart from the insiders, but that's how it tends to work. And actually, when something big happens, the price often tends to drop down because a lot of people who've bought in the last couple of weeks will sell and make that profit in the short term. It's worth more for them to sell now than hold on for another 3-6 months. So I knew that something good was coming out because the price was going up so much. And I thought it was either SKULLS or this, but one of them had to have something that really worked. And it's pretty clear that I think a lot of insiders think this really works. And as they said as well on the stream, they said what you said, Dave, which was that this is a product that will just be on the shelves. It's ongoing. There's not a limited amount. Off you go. So, yeah, this is going to sell Dambusters. And the nice thing is that actually it allows 40k to just take a bit of a break, because it's been doing so much. But it might, I don't know about you, but we used to have fantasy and 40k. Do you think that Horus Heresy might become powerful enough a brand to actually become almost like a third strut for the company?
I think it's kind of already there. I mean, when they shifted it across from a Forge World product to being, a core box set, that was a real shifting point. But a lot of folks pointed out as a sign that, okay, Lord of the Rings has been on the downslide. Age of Sigmar are solid number 2. What's going to be the number 3? And it's kind of interesting now, though, that you have this dynamic where, okay, so you've got 40k, you've got Age of Sigmar, got Horus Heresy. Now, the old world has been doing solid numbers, from all I can gather. It's been a rare weekend of an old world release where I don't see something go out of stock very quickly. And some stuff comes back in stock and sells back out again. And it's been quite fascinating to see that happen.
Is that, sorry, I've got to ask, is that as well because of not as much maybe the lore, but the quality of the models that are coming out?
Well, the interesting thing about the old world is that a lot of it is older models.
Yeah.
There's maybe a sprinkling of newer stuff or stuff that's been remastered. But almost everything for the old world armies is stuff that has been out of print since the end of Fantasy Battle.
Oh, right. Wow.
So 10 years on, really. I've actually had a bit of a chuckle where I've been looking at some, because I have a few saved search terms on eBay. Now, one of the things I picked up recently was from Warhammer Wood when we went there was the Empire Witch Hunter that they brought out, which was a miniature they released in, I want to say 7th edition.
Oh wow, that's cool.
In Finecast. It was one of the first Finecast minis, but this was actually brought back for the old world in metal. So clearly it was a miniature that was intended for metal, but because it hit that point where they were switching over. Because Finecast's intention was to replace metal as their spin casting method of choice. The RRP from GW is less than £10. It's like £9 or something. Most online stores that stock it, because it's classed as an online only product, you can order it from them and it's maybe £8.50. That's actually really solid for a single character model from Games Workshop by any stretch of the imagination.
Agreed.
That same model, the Finecast version, I've never seen it or any of its stablemates from that period being asked for less than 20 quid on eBay. Just this week, I've seen that same model, the new one, in the new old world packaging, people trying to sell it for 2 or even 3 times the RRP.
Great.
And that's a model I know I can order, or I can go and, if you're in Warhammer, you can go in and buy it. It's not hard to get hold of. And yet there are some folks who are still trying to sell it like it's a fancy battle miniature that they've been trying to sell for the last 10 years. and expecting a massive markup to sell. But that's not working anymore.
Thank God.
Yeah, it's like I had a box come through today of the High Off White Lions.
Oh yeah.
Not the current box, the 20-pack, a 10-pack, which I got off an eBay auction for less than 20 quid.
Awesome.
That box would have cost me upwards of 30 or 40 quid, not even a month ago.
Okay, great.
So, there's a demand out there for stuff, and people GW have made the product available again. And that's pushed some of the aftermarket prices down, and it's available. That's the key thing. They're making stuff available. Yeah, they're making a lot of stuff made to order, but they do have a solid core product line for almost every range that they're selling for the old world. Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Battle for War of the Rohirrim box set. That's actually a really stunning starter box set for by any stretch of imagination. I have a copy of the sprue for the Two Sons of Helm Hammerhand. It's a stunningly well designed sprue. It's not a sprue I could see of being designed if GW didn't have some faith in the Middle Earth property still. So just on that alone, that is 5 separate, depending how you string it, skirmish/battle games. Large-scale skirmish games is what I'd probably term them, as opposed to your kill teams, your necromunders, your war cries, which are small-scale skirmish games. And that's a very distinct difference that sometimes gets glossed over with looking at GW's product line. It's and then of course you have Legions Imperialis, which is the epic mass battle game. It's kind of fascinating to look at it and see how their product line has evolved to this point. Sorry, that's me rambling there.
No, go for
it. It is interesting, like I say, that they are investing quite a lot into Horus Heresy as its own line. I still have this idea in my head for give it another edition or two of 40k, and I fully expect us to see Primaris still be a thing, but will have come back around so that we'll actually have proper Primaris tactical squads and Devastator squads.
Okay.
Like we currently have as with Firstborn. Mainly because I think there's a 40k's evolution at the moment. It's evolved into a game where they're trying to make it very easy to digest. So that's why you have such limited loadouts in a lot of data sheets, or very restrictive loadouts. And some of that is fed off of how things operate in the Heresy, where a lot of the legionary units are mono weapon.
Okay.
I'm expecting a point where they'll kind of come back around in their design space, potentially add a bit more granularity back into things. But that's something I envisage further down the line. Is neither here nor there.
Okay.
Sorry. Tangent.
No. It's good. It's interesting to hear as well, because the whole idea. As a company as well, think how unique this is. That's good equivalent. Star Wars and Star Trek, both of which have a present day, but they are both franchises are, I wouldn't say obsessed, but they realize the potential value of the history of their world that brought us to the present day. The problem is that they've fleshed out those worlds, and they do have a history, but they struggle when it comes to creating the media content that best represents that history. And they feel as well that everything, if they do anything historical, it has to be directly leading into something in the future. Whereas I think GW with Horus Heresy, they sort of, even though a lot of the tech is close, I mean, you're talking about a mark of a suit, you're talking about a slight change in style of a suit, and the way things look. You can see how things evolve into others. And some things don't change between 30k and 40k. But even though it's slightly less, they feel more comfortable to sit in that little pocket of Horus Heresy pocket. This is Horus Heresy Age, Horus Heresy aligned. And it feels like they could have a universe of 30k and it not get too complicated for 40k. I think that's why the way they've designed it as well, because they know that in 10,000 years everything could completely change. You know, politics, religion, the whole nature of what's happened at the end of the heresy. They know they could set up one thing and they don't have to worry about paying it off in 40k. Because the whole idea is nobody knows. That could be another mystery. So I love it. I love it.
I mean, they have done stuff. They've thrown some nice, but it's always been nuggets. So if you're really on the ball and you know the lore, then it makes sense. But you don't. But it's not essential. You don't need to know, which is quite nice. I mean, I think probably the biggest knock against Heresy is that there's so many really nice kits for it that GW have they put them into 40k when they came out initially,
but then they took them out
during 9th, and then they took them out. Now, I've heard two stories about why they did that. There's the official line, which was it was for balance issues, which I kind of get, but equally, Space Marines are still kind of like the biggest single faction, so there's not that many additional data sheets we're talking about that they've pulled out. It's like, I think 4 tanks and 3 dreadnoughts.
Okay.
That's not a lot when you think about it in the grand scheme of balancing, when about one faction has over 50 single data sheets to worry about. I did hear another tale. Now, I can't speak to the veracity of this, but it actually does make sense to me from a business perspective. That part of the reason they removed things like the Leviathan Dreadnoughts, the Contemptors, the Derrideos, the Spartan Land Raiders, all that, why they pulled those out of 40k was because they didn't know how much stuff they were selling to Horus Heresy players. They didn't know if they were selling most of this stuff mostly to 40k players or what. And I do get that. That does make sense to me. It feels a bit, because on one hand it's a question of, well, are we making product for a game, but no one's actually buying? They're buying this stuff for another system entirely, which I do get. I understand that completely, and it's a tricky one because I don't know how they get around it. Equally, on the other hand, it's a case of, well, but you are also costing yourself sales from people who would love to use these in your main game. The rules don't have to be stellar for them. The stuff will sell itself just because of how good they look.
With these being used, say, as the base mode, I'm trying to think of... Well, actually, there's a couple of examples. So any upgrade set for Transformers fans as well, any upgrade kits, for any Warframe players, a prime suit, the updated version of suit, the premium suit, so to speak, in a game. Surely they could treat a 30k model as the base, and then they could develop maybe a 40k relic weapon, and it's that, but just half damage to hell, half rebuilt to hell, and so you just end up with the 30k and the 40k, and that way it keeps everybody happy.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness to them, they did provide data sheets for a good chunk of stuff, but it was under the Legends banner, so it's not going to be updated, and the intent is Legends only was really intended for this edition of the game. Anything Legend did will likely not appear again or get an update until the next full edition of the game, which is frustrating. And they're not tournament legal there, but they have rules out there. And if your tournament organise its side so that legends are viable, then you can go ham. So it's kind of a compromise, but it, on one hand, it's kind of pandering a bit to the tournament community, I think, because it's putting a bit too much weight on them. Because a lot of people, if you get told something's not tournament legal, they just won't use it, even if it's still got rules for using this. There are others who will, but to a lot of folks, if you tell an audience, here's what you can play with, this particular section of items, we have rules for it, but they're not tournament legal. A lot of folks, because a lot of the content for 40k is coming from that tournament mindset, list building, faction analysis, all that stuff generally is from a competitive perspective. And Legends just gets ignored because it's not viable, it's not got rules, it's not legal. So
it'll take some fan or some event to find a way to promote that as its own thing and make it almost desirable to be that different thing. But for the moment, you're right, it's going to be like the Outcast. Yeah,
I mean, there are workarounds. I mean, you can use them as proxies. I mean, I have a Leviathan Dreadnought, a resin one. I painted up. It's the only model I have fully painted for my Deathwatch army.
Hey.
I painted it first. Yeah, I bought a resin Leviathan, painted it for a faction of Space Marines who technically probably shouldn't have one, but I thought it looked cool. I could probably use that as a Redemptor chassis instead, because it more or less it's got the same silhouette broadly. It's on the same base size. It's just a little frustrating because like, oh, I wanted my Relic Leviathan Dreadnought that they gotten off of some chapter for some bizarre reason, because it's in black with silver armor. It's cool.
Lovely.
But there are ways around things. Cool. So, but let's not be negative. This was a really good.
It was a fantastic reveal show. I think it will do. Yeah. I think it will do a lot. I think its footprint on YouTube with that animation will be impressive. And I know there might be people that sort of balk at that, but that's kind of the name of the game right now, is getting your media out there, and then it's the trickle-down effect, is that it just becomes a thing. And that it's weird because that audience, they might not be the ones who buy stuff for a board game, but you can be sure as hell that they will probably invest in a computer game. And and also as well Warhammer Plus, which is, it's nice to see more animation for them. Yeah, it's starting to look good. Actually, speaking of that, can we jump back to Skulls, if that's okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, should we go back to Skulls?
So very quickly, by the way, how long have we been going? Is it really 2 hours?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. There we go. Hey, I'll tell you what. No empty gaps.
It's flown by.
Yeah, time flies when you're being destroyed by Horus. So anyway, we'd finished off the Orc Racing game. We had a little break then for some really pricey statues from Weta, and arguably the most dynamic camera work of the entire Skulls preview show.
The thing that hurts is that those statues are all look really nice. However, they also cost us almost as much as my car did.
They probably have as many precious metals as well as your car did. They are chunky beasts. But hey, it's nice that Weta is still doing them.
They are. I did get a chuckle one time though, because I think, what was it? One of the statues, it's almost $2,000 on its own.
Ooh.
The shipping is another 100 quid. But they are very, very nice bits of kit. Weta. There's a reason they're so damn good, folks.
When you go into a forbidden planet and they have that little entranceway and they put all the statues up there, you can probably buy most of that stuff now. The Weta Warhammer stuff, no. This is a window that you can't buy. But it's nice to know it's out there.
Yeah, if you know anyone who has one of those statues, one, tell them they're a git, and two, congratulate them on the biggest hobby flex you're ever going to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, so after we finished drawing over that, we then got an update for Battle Sector.
Yeah.
So general update, it was a bit of a recap as well. There were new free units for the Sisters of Battle and the Orcs, plus a new mode, Crusade, a new DLC story update. We also had a dev who was clearly trying to get into the mood. And I'm going to give him like points because he even adopted a manner that he clearly never adopts at any other time in his life.
Yeah.
But he adopted the Warhammer mood, and you know what? Good for you, sir. And he also got to tease. Well, he didn't tease chaos, but he just said there's something chaotic at the end of the year. And I was just like, well, you've given us new DLC, story update, new units. Well done. Battle Sector did really well here.
I know. You know, Battle Sector is an odd one. I own Battle Sector. I think I have at least a couple of bits of DLC for it. I've never gotten around to playing it before. I might have to, maybe this week, make some space, install it, and give it a go, because by all accounts, it's a decent old strategy game. And this is what, 3-4 years in, and it's still trucking along with lots of content. So.
And again, though, this is the thing I'm thinking now is that these licenses, they're going, look, we are on the big player now in media. Okay, Marvel's kind of stumbling. Star Trek and Star Wars are not doing great.
Yeah, DC are probably on their last roll of the dice to try and make it work, which
and it might do. You never know, it might do. But even if it does, it's going to struggle to get as high as it used to be because the sheen's been taken off the whole sector. But 40k is still on the rise. So all these games that might have organically ended a year or two back, as part of their original plan, the devs are going, how do we keep this going? And they're pushing themselves to then create new DLC, new story, new lore. It's great.
I mean, I think SKULLS has helped a lot with that, because it's now on its 3rd or 4th year, something like that. And it's a regular thing where they do kind of push everything that's out there, and some of it is, the quality may be it may not be your taste, but they're pushing it and they're making sure people are reminded of it. And there's very often promos and bundles on various the key selling sites like Humble or Fanatical or Green Man or whatever you prefer. Steam quite often has promos on various Warhammer branded products as well, and they're not hard to find either if you're looking for those. GOG has an exception. They've got everything pretty much on there at this point.
Yeah.
Apart from, I think there's 2 games got delisted this week, which is a shame, but that happens.
They can only do so much.
Yeah. Although their DLCs, I believe, are people worried about the DLCs going off sale. They are available at least for the period of the SKULLS promotion.
Okay.
Although not as good a discount as they were up until this last Monday just gone, where they were like a quid each for some of these DLCs, which is frankly nuts.
That's nuts. That's crazy.
But no, it's great that because we see so many games die, and these aren't. They're still going, and that's kind of nice.
It is. Next up, we have the challenge of SKULLS, because the problem with SKULLS is that it does cover every game, and that means that it's not just the games that we want or the games that we fans of the lore want. It's also some of the maybe simpler games, including the card games. So I wrote 2 very short notes for this. The first one being Warp Force card game, nice voiceover, but it's a card game. And then Legion's card game, nice choir, but it's a card game.
Yeah.
With the phrase, we stand as one but fall as many. Did I get that right?
I think you did. Yeah, it's still weird to me that these digital card games are still trucking along, but they seem to have a dedicated fan base for them.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you're into your card battlers, these seem like good ones to have a crack at.
Yeah.
Not my cup of tea, but if they're yours, that's actually really good that they're there.
I'd like to hear from people that play these games why they play these games. And okay, I've not gone on many tangents on this stream, which I think is pretty good. So, a quick tangent here. I used to play a game called Transformers Earth War. Now, people who know this will recoil in horror because they had some pretty, they were famous for their monetization, and they actually popularized some monetization tricks, and they even advertised and bragged about it. They bragged about it so much that they actually got exposed and raked across YouTube, and yet they're still going.
Yeah.
And they've technically as well got arguably some of the largest amount of lore about Transformers ever written, because although Furman would only write 2 sentences for each new character, they've unveiled something like 300-400 new characters at this point.
Yeah, they've done a lot for that game over the years. I pieced out when I decided I'd buy a booster bundle they were doing for the Dinobots, and I didn't get enough to build their combiner.
Yeah,
I got the entire team, but then they said, "Oh, you all need to be this rarity to combine." It's like, oh, fair for you.
It was. I think it was just when I found myself, and admittedly, I think I was between jobs at the time. But I'd done like one of their weekend group events, and on the Sunday, I just spent the entire night through the night, every 15 minutes, doing something just to help. And in the end, we made it with like half an hour to spare. And we realized that our little team out of our community, our little team, our little group, our little whatever you called it, gang, quest, squad, whatever, we literally worked ourselves to the bone for a mobile game for a single character, which turned out for me to be like one of the most bland, useless characters going. And I was like, what is the point? So, some of these games are good, some of them are bad. I mean, I'm glad that these games are still going. And the thing is as well that although I was taking the piss a bit with the the nice voiceover and the nice choir, the fact was that they tried to put as much into their presentation as possible. Yes, these are card games, but again, they're trying to do it because they know this is valuable. And I bet behind the scenes they're trying, right, how do we make the cards, well, how do we add animation to the cards? How do we add more voiceovers? How do we add more lore? How do we make this anything more than what it is? Because they realize this is the gravy train. So anyway, jumping on the next thing, which is something I've mentioned already, Warhammer Plus. So they had a quick advert for that, which is worth noting because that library is building up. It's taken a while. It's getting there. They need a better pipeline. And the problem is that they potentially have it with fans, but they also keep sending cease and desist to fan sites. So there's some issues there, but
the way I've looked at Warhammer Plus is that I'm not paying for it for Warhammer TV. That's not. I'm not even paying for it for the archive, for the vault. I'm paying my subscription for access to what the apps do, the 2 apps. Because they are actually quite good at what they do.
Yeah.
And it's actually a lot less than some other companies have tried charging for their apps over the years, to my mind.
Okay.
And given you get a miniature as well, it's effectively it's 25 quid for the year to access 2 apps for 2 quite sizable games.
And you get, was it two figures?
You get a choice from 2 figure packs. The current ones are both, well, one's 3 figures, the other one's 2. But you can always buy the one you don't get as a freebie, which is actually, you got a year to do that, or a year after the current miniatures cycle out to do that, which is quite nice. But yeah, I mean, Warhammer TV does have quite a lot to it now. The content is variable. It's nature of the beast. I like that they do have so much variety though going on. It's not just the animations.
Yeah,
they're trying to provide more content. The Vault, God, I wish the Vault was better because it updates so weird. The updates to it are so infrequent. and you can't filter by product. You have to search for something or scroll through the entire list. And that's not how you... I'd rather just have a drop down where I could drop down for codexes, supplements, White Dwarf, something like that. But
yeah,
it's a tad frustrating. The only other change I'd really highly recommend they made is that in regards to the apps, stop putting codes into codexes. Just have the app give you, if you're paying for the app, you have full access to all the armies.
Yeah, agree.
That's what every other... Okay, Infinity, their army app is free. You have full access to every army, every sub-faction, every way of building, and it links to a full rules wiki with... So you can check what each rule and weapon does live. War Machine, the way that used to work, I haven't checked out Steamforge's version, so if I'm wrong here, if this has changed, I do apologize.
Yeah.
But back in the day, War Machine, you paid a subscription for the app, you had full access to the app. You could then pay to unlock the various factions beyond their core. But you still had, all the factions had a core set of miniatures that you could see everything for those miniatures. But beyond that, if you wanted to dig deeper into faction, you did have to unlock them. But that was like a £4 unlock per faction.
Oh, okay.
That's not a lot, actually, in the grand scheme of things. If you told someone, here's a 40k app, you have access to this core list of data sheets for every faction. You can army build out of it. But if you want to be able to see the data cards and the faction rules from the full codex, pay us this much and that'll unlock it for the rest of this edition of the game.
Yep.
And that's what War Machine did. And whatever else Privateer Press did wrong with the handling of War Machine and Hordes over the years, that was, pardon my French, fucking spectacular. And I do think that's the one thing GW need to evolve on, is how they pass rules out. Because honestly, they know there are places you can view the rules for free. Yeah. They know it, we know it. The sites aren't hard to find.
Honestly, as well, I mean, in terms of... Sorry to jump in here, mate, but pay for models, pay for lore, pay for video games, pay for other stuff. But for stats and rules, and I know codexes have far more, obviously, than stats and rules, and that's essentially, I think, what GW, that's how they go, oh, that's why you're paying. But for stats, for rules, for the things that you need to play the game, there shouldn't be a cost for that. There shouldn't be, because if you set out a set of rules, the thing is that people are buying the stuff to then use those rules.
Yeah.
And I don't see, if anything, if that was my rant, it was the rules should always be free, because the rules are the very least of what you're investing in.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the rules, it will actually stop a lot of people from buying the stuff automatically. It doesn't matter how good the figure is. If they haven't got a game for it, if they haven't got a set of stats for it to be played under, they're not going to bother. As you said as well, when certain stuff is not allowed in the main game, it's like Classic or Legends, I think you called it. Again, my complete lack of knowledge again showing through. But you see what I mean? It's like if it doesn't fit the standard, then it's dropped. It doesn't matter how good a game or a model is. And it just, to me, it's like, well, then those rules need to be free and available for everything, because that's almost like that's what you get them with. That's the way you tempt them. Is that you go, if you had the models, you can play this game. But at the moment, they're going, well, if you had the models, you could play this game, but it might not be the right game, and you might not actually be able to play it with that game. Suddenly, they don't bother. Anyway, apologies.
No, not at all.
However, speaking of waffling and maybe saying too much, segue back to Skulls. We're into the final straight now, and this is one big feedback actually on the event. I know a lot of other people will talk about the fact that there's too many mobile games that they're including here, the fact is they got the license unless these guys stop, and I don't think they're going to. However, I do think at least one of these games is going to try and evolve in the next 3-4 years. If they're still going, they will try and do something more. I don't know how, but they will. I'm just saying now.
That'd be
but
nice
in terms of saying too much, Rahul, listen, mate, you're hosting the show, but you don't have to summarize what's coming next. The whole idea is it's the reveal. He literally, it's like he spells out a lot of this stuff before it happens, but it's right before it happens as well. It's almost like a mean-spirited thing to say, but it's just frustrating, I think. But anyway, Darktide. Darktide finally contacts Carl Urban's agent, asks him if he's free. Carl Urban says, I'm sorry, I can't do it, but you have my blessing to go full dread with the trailer. That is, I mean, it's great. It's just, and again, it's like the Darktide animation people. I don't know, have they done an independent animation?
I don't know.
They need, because they should be commissioned, because if they had these models, and in this trailer, it's the first time I think that an enemy guard has been allowed to show this range of emotions, from anger and aggression to flat out fear to contemplation to heroic last stand, which when he screams it sounds like an orc. It really does. I can't unhear it. But then like just the comedy end, and then Judge Dredd turns up.
I love that. I love the whole thing that it's literally, if I was Alex Garland and I saw this, I would be on the phone to my lawyers saying, hang on, can they do this? Because that was...
It was close. It was so close.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah. And honestly, if you weren't aware of what the Arbites are based on before, bloody hell, should you be aware of it now? Go watch Dredd, please, I implore you.
I've not read a lot of literature about them. And yet, I have to admit, I have done nothing but think of scenarios with them and how their lives would be and how they would grow and how the weird spot that they inhabit in, say, a hive city.
The Arbites are a fascinating thing because you're listening to Caiaphas Cain, or you're reading Caiaphas Cain, right?
Yeah.
One thing that comes up in his books is that quite often, even though he sometimes does meet members of the Adeptus Arbites directly, as a rule, he will refer, unless he mentions that specifically, that he's done that's happened, he will refer to the law enforcement of whatever planet he is on as Arbites.
Okay.
But they're not. In most cases, the Adeptus Arbites are most planets only have a single precinct of Adeptus Arbites. Some only have a single Arbites.
They're not PDF. They're just...
Nope. They're not even police. They're such a... I mean, there are instances where they're supposed to be a separate entity from the planetary governor's office. Okay. So the planetary governor of an imperial planet will have their own law enforcement division, or however they want to do it, because honestly the Imperium does not care how they enforce the law on their planets, so long as the tithes are met and they're not traitors. But the Arbites the Arbites are effectively like the FBI. That's how they've been described in a few cases. That they are a branch of the They are their own Adeptus within the Imperium, just like the Adeptus Astartes, the Adeptus Custodes. It's very rare for an organization to be called an Adeptus. That gives them weight. The head of the Arbites as a whole has been a High Lord of Terror in the past. They are an important organization. There are cases where a planet's Arbites precinct may be the last bastion of imperial law on a planet that's turned to chaos. They are fanatically devoted to the Imperium and the law of the Imperium. That is their sole function, to enforce the law. And they're a really interesting faction to see. They show up in a lot of fiction as supporting characters. There have been a few books which have focused on Arbite's characters. There have been books that have featured Arbites as a supporting character, most notably in the Eisenhorn books.
Mm.
But it's kind of fun that we have two different games, Rogue Trader and Darktide, both having Arbites expansions coming in the next few months.
And also, what do both games have apart from just the figure? Doggo. And let's face it, I think both of them are pretty vicious. Like I wouldn't even be like both of them as well. It's like the human, maybe I could take him on a good day. Doggo, nah, not a chance.
Yeah,
not a chance.
See, one thing that does intrigue me about the Darktide one though is it's a paid expansion. It's an $11.99 expansion to unlock the Arbite's character class, which is the first time they've done this. Because it's the fifth character.
Mm.
And honestly, I thought we might have seen maybe an Imperial Stormtrooper or something first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it's going to go as well, because unless there's lore, but of course, if you've then got a paid character, you don't want to lock people out.
Yeah, I mean, they have said that they are making some adjustments with this release, so that in the core game they're revising the narrative introduction to the game, how you start and how the narrative unfolds for you.
That's good.
I think it's partly an incentive to encourage people to play back through the start of the game as the new character class.
It's also though, speaking as a Warframe guy as well. If for instance, they've added 13 years now, I think it is, of new content. But it means that where they're working at now, if you're a new starter, well, you've got a hell of a slog to go through all this stuff, which, let's face it, yes, it's aged okay, and they've updated it, and they've done a new start every so often and new levels. But you've still got a slog to get to the new good stuff that you're seeing advertised. So they find shortcuts. So it might be a new start, but it also might be a bit of a shortcut to get to some of this current not ender game stuff, but just current stuff a little bit quicker. But also not mean that you miss out.
Yeah, I mean, we are 3 years into Darktide by this point.
Wow.
Coming up, I think is it 3 or 4 years this Christmas, I think. And as much as I actually have really enjoyed learning the narrative and finding things out, but it's also not been easy all the time to find. So some of it I've only found out about because, shout out to Swanee, because she's real deep into, she's gone deep, and she's great at digging stuff out and pointing out where to find stuff.
Yeah,
because full credit to Fat Shark, they've made sure that there is content available to tell you about the narrative, both in game, out of game, on their blog, you can find it, and it doesn't feel like a chore to find things, but it's not always easy to find things.
Yeah.
So I think at this point, for them to look at things and go, well, all right, let's revamp the how we're telling our narrative, how we want to tell this narrative to new players, and also use this new class as a way to get existing players through this this revised narrative experience, so we're all on the same playing field. I think that's not a bad idea.
No, and also, let's face it, using Judge Dredd, because that's kind of an inspiration. It's a nice way as well to kind of in shorthand say, this is what you're looking at. Because there's going to be a whole host of people that know what Dredd is. It sounds crazy, but they'll know what the Dredd movie is, but they won't necessarily know what 40k is. And it's a way of them going, okay, so it's basically that. Of course it's not, but that gets you in the right headspace.
Yeah, and from a gameplay perspective, I'm already picturing how I imagine that they'll play, possibly as a slightly maybe a slightly tankier shooter than the guardsman. But also, just in their interactions, I can imagine a party with an Arbite in will just be berating all these rejects. Something rotten.
I just want the Ogren to try and pet the dog.
Yeah, actually, that's going to be great. And especially now, because I don't know if you've played Dark Tide recently, but in the last few months, I don't know when they implemented it. The last time I played it, I noticed that when you're in the Valkyrie heading towards the launching the mission, whereas before the camera was fixed, it's now dynamic, so it will flick between different camera views whilst you're waiting for the level to load in.
Can you control the
You can't control it, but it's just the fact that it's not just the same fixed view of your team. You'll cut through different views and different angles to see your team as they're just sat there waiting to deploy, and it's a little thing, but it gives it a bit more texture, a bit more variety, and you get a better feel for who you're going in with, because of how you can see everyone a bit better. So
there's I don't want to pull too much to going back to Warframe here, and I will stop now. But they did a similar thing with their starting screen. So, for instance, it was originally just a ship flying. Then they realized, well, actually, why don't if you press certain buttons, the ship can tilt up, tilt down, tilt left, tilt right, and so people do that as a way of saying hello. They find a way to do it, and it's the simplest of things. But in a game, when you're this is what I like about certain developers. Dark Tide will look at characters, they'll look at scenes, they'll look at locations, all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, someone else will go, well, what about that start screen? What about that simple little thing that we take for granted? What about the menu screen we've seen 3,000 times, but is there a way to add something else to it? Even if it's somebody like a guardsman waving at you before his head blows up. Something silly and funny, but it's a great way to add something extra to the game. It gets people, again, it gets the regular players to feel good because it shows that the devs still care, and it shows they have a heart. Unfortunately, most games, if you're playing them, you'll develop a team spirit, a community spirit, a sense of supportive, one for all and all for one. However, one game that does not necessarily generate that is a game called Rust. Now, how familiar are you with Rust?
I know the name. I don't really know much about the game itself. I'm assuming you do.
Well, a little bit. So if you jump onto YouTube, it is perfect YouTube fodder.
Okay.
It's open world. It's all v all. It's people it's a building game. It's survival, betrayal, team ups, but also as well people ripping off other people and all sorts of weird and wonderful. But all you really need to know is that right now it is number 5 on Steam game chart, and I believe that it has been around that level. And I'm just going to have a quick check here. I mean, when it launched back in 2014, it did hit a low point of 12,000 players, but by 2020 it was up to 100k, and it is just continuing to grow since then. And I mean, it's ridiculous. So there were 144,000 people playing an hour ago. Its highest ever peak is just over 250,000, and that was in January of this year.
Wow.
Now, it's not to everyone's cup of tea. Again, folks, jump on YouTube. You'll see lots of it. There's people that make a living streaming videos, but they obviously talk about the stories that came from their games and doing that sort of stuff. But it is a mighty player in this industry. So although it doesn't mean a lot for 40k fans when they see Rust, I think it will pull an awful lot of other people into the 40k universe. It just depends how it's handled. If it's just skins, well, that'll be minimal impact. But if there's elements of story in there, you never know. Anyway, So from something that fans don't know a lot about to the thing that fans pretty much know everything about, which is Space Marine 2. We've got a new mission mode, which is Siege mode, which is on June 26th.
Yeah. Every game, every shooter should have a siege mode because they're always great.
So, but funnily enough, I don't think there's anything we can say about this one because it's Space Marine 2. I mean, it's like it's at the standard. It's the new mode that everyone wants. I will say though, it looks when they had game footage and obviously showing a little bit of a montage of stuff, and there was a bit of a kind of story thing going on with some of the footage. But the fact is, it just still looks so damn good.
It does.
So good. And you just think, yeah, we're happy for this to be our thing because it just looks beautiful. And they're adding more and more stuff to it, and they're keeping to their plan, but they're also adding a bit of extra stuff. And, I've heard from various streamers and other people that the company behind this have made a fortune on this. They've done really, really well. And so they're just going to keep on keeping on. And yeah, I mean, Space Marine 3 can't come soon enough. Wouldn't even be surprised if there was, I don't know, an expanse or they did some more TV stuff in relation to it, because it is a lovely little side stream of Warhammer content for a lot of people now, so it's good.
I mean, secret level, I can't imagine Amazon wouldn't go back to the well for that. So I think I did good numbers for it.
I believe if you look at Amazon now, admittedly, this might be because I watched that episode, but it still comes up an awful lot on must-watch things, and I don't see the other episodes doing as much. I believe the 40k episode just did ridiculous numbers. If you just watch on YouTube as well, it's probably that reaction stream that everyone likes a different element of it.
Yes.
I've seen Astartes guy as well, as you can tell, he can't lose. He's so good at this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that episode is Secret Levels was really much like Love, Death and Robots, which I must get around to watching the new season of that as well. I haven't done that yet. I'm very annoyed I haven't done that yet. But it's an anthology series, so the quality can vary.
Yeah.
Now, Space Marine 2, oddly enough, I can't disagree with this. It's not the best episode, but it's easily in the top 3. Okay. And mentally, I keep switching between whether the top 2. I think Pac-Man's number 1. Number 2.
Wow.
That Pac-Man episode, man, that came.
I know. It's really, it is intense. Yeah.
But it was that one, and then honestly, I'm torn because do I prefer the Armored Core one or the what's one based on that defunct PlayStation game? No, Shogunners? No.
I know what you mean.
You know the one I mean.
Yeah.
The one that is very much a Guardians of the Galaxy type heist episode.
Yes.
And there was one other episode as well that really struck me. So a nice tight 5 out of the 10, 12 episodes. That's actually not bad average overall.
Oh no, that's great average. Most seasons would struggle to hit that. So,
but Space Marine 2, honestly, you can understand why it hit so many people. It does so well because 40k is trending like hotcakes. Space Marine 2, the game, is doing numbers, but it's also a really good episode.
Yeah, they work to all of the strengths of the world, and that's the thing. It's impressive. I'm gonna jump because we do need to finish before we hit the 5-hour mark. And we're both as guilty at this point. But
I know,
which is a problem because we're now going to spend 3 hours on the next sentence. So this is a weird one. Dawn of War Definitive Edition. So it's lovely to see the upgrade. It's not quite as upgraded as I thought it would be. I think this is a thing that a lot of people will love, will go out and buy because they definitely want to buy it, and they will definitely start playing it, and then they will definitely walk away from it. Because I don't think it's quite I don't know.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Because I was reading an interview that PC Gamer did with the devs, or their article, they interviewed some devs about it. Or they had some quotes from the devs about it, I should say. And because this is Relic post-Sega.
Yeah.
Because if anyone's unaware, Relic were bought when THQ went under. They was kind of saved by Sega. Went on to do, I can't remember if Dawn of War 3 was them or not, but they certainly did come with Heroes 3, which didn't do as well as Sega expected it to, sadly. Although by all accounts, it's not a bad game. It's just struggles next to Company of Heroes is a very strong legacy in its own right to live up to. So I think late last year, Relic basically came to terms with Sega to go off on their own again.
Okay.
So they're now an independent studio once more. And I think this was kind of like a safe bet for them to go to GW and say, look, we would like to, because earlier this year we had, or late, I can't remember, when did it do? We had the anniversary edition of Dawn of War and Dawn of War 2.
Yeah.
Which were completely free if you already owned the games. Free updates to both of them. Which did provide a lot of quality of life stuff under the hood. But they were by no ways a remaster or anything like that. They were simply doing some nips and tucks. And I think that may have been Relic kind of doing a test run to see if what was needed. Yeah. To keep Dawn of War running. And to kind of to make it more appealing to folks. Because Dawn of War it's over 20 years old now. That sound you hear is mine and Adam's limbs creaking to dust as we are old men by this point.
I was old when that came out.
And honestly, what they're stating they're doing for this game, so it's not a remake. It's not even a remaster. It's going in, so they've removed some of the. My understanding is there's no more games. Is it GameSpy? Whatever the requirement was that was under the hood that it had to log into for multiplayer, that's gone.
Yeah,
you can still play multiplayer, but that's no longer needed. That login method, but it always did. It took up. That was a process it did. Some of the other launches it used under the hood, they're gone as well. They're consolidated. They've upped the screen resolutions, so you can now play on the standard widescreen monitor we all have.
That's good. Without
anything being stretched or the mini maps being tiny, which is brilliant. They've increased the resolutions. The zoom out has been increased, and they've increased the draw distance on the maps. So that's the sort of quality of life improvement that I don't think people will really understand until you get it in hand.
Yeah,
and are able to play it. They've improved the textures on all the models. So again, not a massive improvement, but it's one that it's a subtle one. It's the best way I can explain it, they're making Dawn of War work the way we picture it in our minds as working, the way we think we remember it working.
You've got all the expansions in there with this edition, which is great. Yep. Which is good because let's face it, some of those expansions were better than others. Like I never even got into the third one at all. Like I don't think I
played any of that one, to be honest.
I own it, but I can't. I could never get into it. It would just crash. But the sisters and the Catan look really nice. The sisters, especially, look gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm encouraged by the fact they've stated that this release is designed to be as easy for. It's designed to work with existing mods. They're working with the mod community.
Yeah, which is great.
This has been something they've been doing. This isn't a new project. This has been going on for a while. Behind the scenes, they've been talking to modders. And part of it, they're doing a lot of this is not only to make the game, to preserve the game. They want to make it so that people can still use all the mods that they've come to love. Because there's a lot of Thriller guys, they're gamers as well. Yeah. A lot of the mods, they've actually said in the past, they really enjoy the mods that have come out. But also, they're providing things like that increased zoom out and the draw distance. Part of the reason that that's in there is so that modders can be more ambitious as well.
Mm.
And that's kind of fascinating to consider, because the mod community are kind of a bunch of mad bastards for Dawn of War already.
Oh god, yeah.
So yeah, it's an odd one to see. Everyone expected Dawn of War 4, frankly.
Yep.
But
this will be a nice little appetizer.
The main thing I think is going to be the price point. What this sells for. That's going to be the key thing. Now, you are getting a lot of content, but there's also 20-year-old content.
Yes.
And there's limits to what people are willing to pay for that. Unfortunately, even a remaster.
It will be a hell of a balancing act for them.
It will be.
I mean, the thing is as well that you can add things. For instance, a Votan faction would be one way that they could make this completely unique.
I mean, they've said that this release was intended to be a snapshot of 40k at that time, which was 4th edition. So I don't know if Relic would do that, but I'd love to see the mod community do that.
They do that in a heartbeat. That's the thing though. It's like if I was Relic, and it's like, look, I get that this is not of that time, but it would be a way to make this a little bit more, it's like you're buying an old game, but it actually covers everything. Would you be up for that? I mean, look, let's face it, if it was down to modders, I wouldn't be surprised if they've done the Sigmar version of this already.
Yeah.
So, by the way, speaking of different versions, and this was very quickly shown, Dawn of War Onslaught.
Yeah.
A board game.
Yeah. GW have been on a thing the last years where they do try and put out a promo board game alongside video game releases. So we had the Space Marine 2 one with Titus and the Horde of Gaunts. We've had the Dark Tide one, which is, from what I understand, is actually a really good reworking of the Blackstone Fortress rule set.
Okay.
And I'm kind of annoyed I've not been able to pick up a copy of it anywhere, because I think it's now out of print. Because it's one of those things where in the UK they were always a pain in the ass to get hold of, because they were designed for the American retail chain market. But it's kind of cool that it exists. So yeah, you're basically getting the Heroes of the Chapter from the 9th edition Imperium box. So Space Marine Chaplain, what's his name? Judicar with his Executioner's Sword, Blade Guard Veterans, Blade Guard Ancient, and 3 Eradicators. And the Apothecary Biologia. No, not the Apothecary, sorry.
This is what I wanted. I was like, why did the mention of those models suddenly spark something off? And I was trying to find the question that I wanted to ask. And then I realized, are any of those models, because of the craziness with, let's face it, secondhand models and price increases and so on and so forth, do you think it'd be worth buying that set for anyone who wanted to get those models? Because some of those models are now expensive and maybe harder to get.
That sprue, I mean, it's the only way you can get a Judicar at the moment. They haven't released a Judicar on his own. That particular Chaplain design is the only way to get that particular Chaplain.
Oh, okay. So it's
a voice.
Nice.
Yeah, the Blade Guard Ancient is the only way to get him in there. And the 3 Blade Guard and the 3 Eradicators are, yes, they're push fit, but they're also unique sculpts to that kit. So, I mean, you can buy that sprue on its own, because GW did release it separately, and I think it's something like 80 quid off the website.
Ooh.
You can't buy it separately from a web store. It's only off GW's website.
All right.
It was the exclusive sprue for Space Marines from that kit.
Yeah.
Much like in the previous one, you had a sprue of 2 lieutenants, an ancient, and 5 Space Marines. which they did a similar thing for. They sold that on its own for like 70 quid. Which actually, when you break it down, on one hand, it looks expensive, but if you think about it as basically 3 character models and 3 units of inventory that retailed for, yes, they're for push fit versions, but for standard versions retailed for 40 quid a pop. There's some mathematics you need to work out into actually just. It is a hard one to justify. If this box is, I think, the £50 price mark, which is what the Darktide one sold for, and that had 4 heroes and a bunch of grunts to face off against, so roughly comparable figure numbers. Yeah, they're in red plastic, but who cares? It's red plastic. Just prime something else.
Yeah, that's it. Final 2, one of which was very much a curveball. Defenders of, I'm going to say Avalax, but
the VR game.
Yeah, the VR game. So I see one use for this. One use, and that is that you cut between a stream of what the people are doing, and then you cut back to how they actually look in a large area, looking like idiots. Because even though they tried with the video, it's clear that you are going to look like a right muppet in reality.
Yeah. Bless. Virtual reality still has a hell of a way to go.
But it is interesting. It is. And the thing is as well that if you put a bunch of us in one of those VR environments, I would say most of us over a certain age would injure ourselves. We would, without a doubt. However, we'd go down swinging. We'd also probably at least knock out at least one other member. We just get flashbacks and start just hitting everything. But yeah, it's intriguing. It's like I get the feeling that this is going to be a VR setup at certain locations.
Yeah, I'm actually.
Almost like an alien war thing, because we were talking about that like on the channel the other day, and it's like it does feel like very much something you would have set up at a certain place. But again, it would need. I mean, they'd never stick something like that in Warhammer World because it would just be carnage. But yeah, I don't know where this thing would sit.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's the kind of thing I can see being a special attraction. Kind of thing.
And then go to like Fairford.
You'd go to like Fairford or something, and there'd be a gaming arena where there was always you had a bunch of consoles and normally something like maybe the BattleTech virtual world pods set up for you to go nuts on, and look a little bit of a tit playing, but
yeah. I mean, that's the thing as well. You'd have to be on board as well with the fact that you would look like an idiot to anyone outside playing it. But inside your virtual world, you are fighting Chaos Space Marines. You do not give a monkeys. You'll just completely buy into it, and good for you. Though the fact that they kind of had a bunch of guys who didn't look like 40k fans, and women that looked even less like 40k fans. And that's not a knock at guys or girls or anyone else. It's just like, have a couple of people that would really be into it. Because as well, they'd be the ones who wouldn't want to use the bolt gun. They just want to swing a hammer.
Yeah.
We got one more thing. And this is, the danger is as well, as we close in on 3 hours, this is the thing I'm most worried about. So, Space Marine 1 Remaster.
Yeah.
Why?
That was. I mean, I couldn't really tell the difference that much. Could you?
I couldn't tell the difference at all.
Because I kind of thought that the anniversary edition we already had that they dropped for that already put in HD textures and all that jazz. So, I mean,
they said they're remastering, but beyond maybe one scene, I've not seen anything that would even give me a clue as to what that remaster would be.
Yeah.
And it's very weird as well because you're remastering something unless the danger they've got, you see, is they can't make it closer to Space Marine 2. Or can they? Because
I mean,
there would have to be some sort of agreement then.
I mean, I think if you told folks they were going to give you a version of Space Marine 1, which had the same graphical fidelity of Space Marine 2,
Yeah.
I think you have a lot of folks who are all close to Space Marine 2.
They'd be up for it.
Not in terms of changing the look of the armor, so still Firstborn and all that. But I think people would be kind of down for that, to be honest, because, I mean, Space Marine still kind of holds up as a decent... It was always a solid 7, 8 out of 10 shooter.
Yeah.
You know? And it still holds up as that. Even today, there's a little jank that's of its time. It's from that brown period of shooters. But you're also playing a big blue Space Marine who molts his orcs for fun. So, I mean, I suppose the only reason that it wouldn't be a more drastic, full-on remaster rather than what we're getting is that the amount of work it would require.
Yeah.
That's my only thought, and I can understand that because it's often difficult for fans to appreciate how much work does go into some of these remasters. Mainly because the terminology gets bandied about so often, it's lost all meaning.
Yeah.
Is it a remaster? Is it a remake? Is it
because some people think it's just like tweaking the controls on an Instagram picture to give it a bit more detail, and it's like, no, it's a bit more in depth than that. By the way, speaking of the simple things that people miss, yes, it's on this edition. It's this one where I think it was Kyrios noted that the Orc boss, who's obviously far more impressive a character than the Dawn of War equivalent, but yeah, his armor has just been changed to all black.
Huh.
Which is really odd. Now, again, that could be placeholder. That could be like really simple, basic stuff. But it is interesting that they've done that. So it'd be a challenge to see what they change, what they don't, what they improve on, what they don't. But this is the thing as well. If you were to improve, say, Titus, and you know the fidelity that you want to reach, and you have your base model, and do you also at the same time try and reach that level of detail and quality, and then get it to match up closer to Space Marine 2, even though Space Marine 2, technically those designs are copyright by that company? You see what I mean? It's like the challenge of, do they agree to it? And theoretically, it would be in their interest to go, yeah, we're, reach out, say to the guys, look, we want to remaster Space Marine 1. We admit we're doing it purely based off of the goodwill generated by Space Marine 2, but that's just business. Likewise, you have the franchise. That's just business again. It's no one's fault. But are you all right, especially if we, give you a nod or there's some sort of agreement that we sort of push this game so actually it becomes more of a Space Marine 2 prequel, if you see what I mean, rather than the original game?
It's an interesting question. Certainly one to think on because, I don't think there's an easy answer to it.
I mean, the big thing is, are they going to just change Leandros into Dick Dastardly? Are they just going to... Is he literally going to be twirling a mustache in the corner?
Look, give me a button to clap Leandros in the nuts, and I think all people would be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, fantastic. And so, on that ball-breaking finale, I think we're done.
Huzzah!
So, yeah, it's been 2 very interesting days when it comes to the Warhammer streaming.
Yes, hasn't it?
I can't not think when I walk away from these last 2 days, the biggest thing from me is a Sister of Silence has been put on the screen, and it's for a faction that's barely supported, and she looks sodding badass, and it's like, can you please give them some representation? No, like even the worst anti-woke person would be cool with the sister. Like this is where you win. This is what I've been saying. I'm not even going to mention the C word when it comes to gold-plated female characters, but this is what you should have done. You know, let's get more of these ladies in, and because as well, I love the way that she's treated so well in that small scene. Let's have more of those. And I like the fact that GW is such a big company now that it can feature something like that. I mean, I couldn't even imagine a promo like this 5-6 years ago.
God, no. I mean, just compare it to the Age of Darkness reveal trailer. There, you can see the improvement. And that is still a damn good trailer, that one. It still gets used by so many folks on the internet because it's good visuals. It looks great. It has everything you need. This one, though, just you can see where all those years of improvement have gone. And if we don't get something more, I'll be very surprised.
By the way, I'm saying it now. If they do a Dawn of War game, I think they'll redo that entire opening sequence from Dawn of War 1 and they'll just update it. A shot-for-shot remake. And you know what? People would lose their sodding marbles.
I mean, shot-for-shot remake of that intro with the modern aesthetic of 40k. So Primaris Marines, Redemptor Dreadnought, the current aesthetic of Orcs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty dang good.
So there we go, folks. Anyway, on that positive note for the future, I suppose it's time for us to leave.
Yes, if you're still listening, are you okay? Do you need help?
Hey, I don't. Honestly, I think there's barely been a gap. I'm absolutely stunned. I think we're developing our craft, but just don't tell anyone we're doing that.
This has been a good natter. I've enjoyed this. It's been a nice recap of Skulls. Good react to the Heresy preview. I've enjoyed this. Thank you, man. Thanks for joining me.
Always a pleasure.
This is much appreciated. And on that note, we shall release you all from our audial grasp.
Take care, folks.
And have a good one, chat, ladies and gents. Bye-bye.
Bye.